All right, here with Jeff Neal, my accountant. Jeff, welcome.
Oh, how are you?
Hey, good. Thanks for coming out. First thing I got to do, offer you a beverage. We're going to have a bevy. Today's Sunday. Wow. I have? What?
I quit eating and drinking like 7 weeks ago.
Eating and drinking?
Yeah, basically.
How are you staying alive?
Protein shake, grapefruit juice.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you look good.
Thank you.
So, no bevy? Listen,
You know what? I could do an OV.
An OV.
Since Welland has made its way out to Wainfleet today.
Well, that OV is a display OV. I don't know if you want that. There's less calories. This is actually a bottle that a fan sent me, Brian Page. This I don't know. You drink. It's a good one. And this one my brother just gave me too. I don't know if you're down with this stuff. I got some. What is this ball and stuff? I don't even know what this is. Balvanini. Looks double wood, aged 12 years. Product of Scotland, Scotch.
I'd go with the bourbon.
Yeah?
Before the Scotch, yeah. Sure.
All right. I like it.
You'll break my streak.
Well, we'll just have a little bit. Gotta have a little bit. No eating and drinking for how long?
Since Father's Day.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How long do you plan on not eating again?
I'm almost over it.
Yeah? Okay, so we're close.
Yeah, it's close enough.
This is a good time to celebrate if I can get it open. There we go. So, this stuff is strong. Shout out to Brian Page that gave me this. This is 58.4%. So I think a little ice is probably good, yeah?
Yep. It's on the disc. Oh, it's fake.
It's just...
It's fake.
For
anybody watching, it's fake.
It's a coaster. She's a coaster. I don't even know. Do you ice it up large with this or not?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
I like it.
You're a pro.
All right. So it's got... Wow, cork. This is fancy. Wow. Smells good. Tell me when.
That's good.
Okay. Well, cheers to this. Thanks for coming out.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's actually really smooth. I like it. Now, of course, the Niagara Herbalist. Will we be partaking in any of these today?
You can all you want. I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're not a fan of the...
I mean, I have to keep my wits about me here, Joe. We're talking serious business today.
This is laid back, cash. No? No cannabis? I'm sure, being accountant, do you have any cannabis clients?
No.
No? Not yet?
We've had ancillary businesses dealing with it, but none of all the big producers are like huge. Most of them are publicly traded. We don't do any public companies.
Right.
So we haven't been in that stage. I've had a client who's been involved in one, but we haven't done the work for the cannabis business.
So not a dispensary yet? Because there's only, how many in Niagara? There's St. Catharines and then one in the Falls, I think, right? Yeah. I forget what it's called. Munchie or something. Chummy.
Yeah.
But they're a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, I golfed with a guy who his wife works there.
Oh, really?
On Friday, and just told me they were booming in
I
Niagara
bet.
Falls.
I bet.
So,
I think they have the second round of applications out for dispensaries.
Oh, yeah?
I think so. That's what I heard, because it's like a lottery on the first one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, first thing I got to ask you. So, we're not going to touch this at all. Do you partake or you don't partake?
I'm a little more straight and narrow kind of guy, Joe.
No doubt. This is going to be interesting. I told some people I was having my accountant on, and they're like, I don't know if I'm going to listen to that. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see. I'm like, Jeff's a good guy, so we'll see. First thing that I get asked a lot that I haven't asked you yet is people watching the burger reviews have been asking me if I get to write off the burgers.
Absolutely.
I do get to?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's key, because I know, like, when I dine out with clients, I write off half of the meal because I can't write off my portion.
No, it's not your portion that you get to write off. The half represents the fact that you need to eat to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't let you write off the whole thing because part of it is keeping you alive.
Right.
I'm trying to prove with 7 weeks of not eating that you don't actually need to eat to stay alive. But
have you actually not eaten?
Well,
protein shake, but no food?
No, like grapefruit juice is a staple. Protein shake.
Wow.
A little bit in there. I was putting in Lipton's chicken noodle soup, so that was the most amount of.
With noodles or just the broth?
The noodles, like those little ones.
I didn't even expect to talk about this. What sparked this?
I need to lose weight.
Yeah,
it's a good way to lose weight.
And you've lost weight, I can tell.
Weight, yeah.
Yeah. How much?
About 25, between 25 and 30 pounds.
In 7 weeks.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. For anybody who's thinking about doing it, like nobody who knows anything about health has advised that this is a good idea.
No, it's
not a good idea.
Oh, it's not good.
A good idea. It's a terrible idea, but it works.
So you haven't eaten. Are you hungry?
No,
I got some leftovers in the fridge.
No, you get over being hungry.
Really?
Real quick. I did it in November. I did straight grapefruit juice for 3 weeks. Nothing but grapefruit juice and water and energy drinks. And that was really effective.
That's not very balanced.
No.
That's maybe
but I supplement it with gummy vitamins and sometimes Flintstone vitamins. So
wow.
You get all your nutrients, I assume, out of Flintstone vitamins because the Flintstones have never led me astray in the past.
You're hilarious. So, okay, but getting back.
I give way better tax advice than nutrition advice.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I
so we go back to that. So it's not the half portion is the fact that people have to eat. So it's not like the client's portion, yours. So on the Burger Quest, I'm assuming the idea behind it is the advertising.
Yeah, we're
getting your name out since everybody knows the Burger Man now. One of my staff members was yelling at you in the last video.
Really? What was the staff mad about?
No, he was the one in the video that Burger Man.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
That's how you got me to comment on your thing. You know I don't comment on your stuff.
I love it.
Anyway, so because this is for advertising,
so it is a write-off.
It's a write-off, but it's only half deductible. So
only half?
Yeah, the same as when you take a client out.
So I can only write off half the burger.
The top half, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I was hoping I'd be able to write off the whole burger.
You still have to eat. It's still keeping you alive.
But I take your kind of advice much better than your nutrition. I wasn't sure, that's why, but I figured it'd be a write-off because it's a marketing video.
The rules don't differentiate between what you're doing when you're eating. It says meals and entertainment are half. The same with golf. You could have the most business-related golf. You could land the biggest listing you've ever had, a $20 million listing, just because you played a round of golf. Government says golf does not count ever.
Golf is not a write-off.
No.
That's in Ontario or Canada?
Canada.
I've heard that before. I think I've heard some golf lobbyists say that you can't write off golf, but you can write off going to the strip club.
Yeah.
Half.
Yeah, meals and entertainment are half. Golf is specifically in other sports clubs. If you're a member of a curling club, something of that nature, those are 0.
So not just golf, other things.
Yes.
Wow.
Sports clubs, but generally you run into golf more than anything.
Do you know why that is?
No,
it's just super odd.
Yeah.
I'm assuming in America they get to write off golf. Sounds like really
Their tax rules are crazy. They're insane.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Since we're talking tax stuff, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was maybe some like tax, I don't know if I want to call them hacks, but maybe some things that people generally aren't aware of. Like, I don't even know what would come to mind. Like, some things that come to mind is like when students are in school, they get to write off some of their schooling and stuff, RSP stuff. I don't know.
The best part about talking with Joe is he never preps you ahead of time so you can get ready. But yeah, some of them. I had a client yesterday I was just talking to, and they're like, "Oh, my son's moving, bought a house," and so a lot of people. And so I said, "Is he going to claim the first-time home buyers tax credit? You're a real estate agent. This is important for you. There's a tax credit for first-time home buyers.
Okay,
saves you $1,000 in tax." And a lot of people tend to miss it because they don't know. You fill out the software online or whatever you do.
Income tax?
Income tax.
Okay.
So there's a land transfer tax portion. You get exempt for first time, but in income tax, when you file your income tax in April or whatever, $1,000 you can save.
I didn't know that either. Look at that. How long are we in? 3 minutes in, you already taught me something. I love it.
Nice.
So what's that called? That's the first-time
home buyer's tax credit. It's a $5,000 tax credit that equates to $1,000 of actual tax savings.
So does that matter on your income level or?
No, nothing. There's no.
Live in Ontario and you get $1,000.
I believe it's federal. Federal. So anyone in Canada, if you buy a house for you, so you or your spouse can have a house or a condo for the last 4 years. So there's times where a situation where you could have a house, you could move back in with your parents or whatever, and then buy another house 5 years down the road, and you might be able to get it again.
And this is $1,000 clean back, not like it brings down your income level by $1,000.
No, it brings down. It's a $5,000 credit, but it gets you $1,000 back.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Like that, and then for RSPs for first-time buyers, didn't they just change that recently?
Yeah, they changed those rules, and it's not really going to help anybody. To be honest, I mean, it was before you could do $25,000. You could pull out as a first-time home buyer. So that's money that's already in your RSP. You pull it out, you use it on the house, and then you pay it back over 15 years. And I think they bumped it up to $35,000, or something that you could now do that with. I didn't even look at the number because nobody's going to do it.
Not a lot of people.
Because you got to be young and have $35,000 times 2 people generally, so $70,000 sitting around.
And a lot of first-time buyers don't have that kind of money kicking around.
Not usually.
No.
I mean, it's not a great incentive for anybody, except for, like, that's one that really does help wealthy people.
Right. So that was a wealthy tax break or whatever.
I don't even know the point of it. It was to make it sound like they're making housing more affordable without actually doing anything. It's not going to cost the government any tax revenue because nobody's going to use it. Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to go on to like actual other things that people misunderstand in the tax system. So one of them
I like this misunderstandings.
Is the graduated tax rate. So a lot of people I've talked to over the years have been like, well, if I get this promotion, I'm going to have a lot more work, but it's going to bump me up in a newer, higher tax bracket, and I'm going to pay more in tax. It's not going to be worth it.
Right. I've heard this before.
Right. And a lot of people don't understand is the tax bracket you go up into only counts for that incremental income. So the first tax bracket is 20%. It goes up to $42,000 of income.
20%. Okay, hold on. Isn't there a zero up to like 11,000 or something?
Not a tax bracket, but there's a tax credit. So everybody gets the first $11,900 and something as a tax credit. So technically, if you didn't have that credit available, it would be taxable. But the bracket goes from 0 to 42,000,
Gotcha.
And then you take your credits off on the other side. So it's just the way they do it. But yeah, effectively, the first 12 grand is tax free.
Gotcha.
Give or take.
Gotcha. So then, sorry.
But getting outside of that, the next dollar you earn over the 42,000 doesn't bump up the whole 42,000 to 24%. It's 24% of the next dollar. You still only pay the 20% on the first 42,000.
Right.
So you're not disadvantaged ever by taking a raise, as far as that goes. And people always worry about, well, I'm gonna have to manipulate my income to make sure I'm in that lower bracket. Like, but who cares if you go $1 over because you paid 4% extra on that. On that dollar.
Yeah.
So that's a big misconception. And once people get over that, then they feel a lot better. I don't have to worry too much about this.
So in our area, just to go over that, the tax brackets go 0, and we don't have to be exact there. Just 0 to 42 is about 20%.
Yep.
42 to...
It's 42 to 46 is about 24%. There's a whole bunch of little brackets. Federally, there's only like 5 big brackets, but in Ontario, they put in all these little ones.
Right.
You can go to djb.com and search for our tax facts card, and we have all the...
Am I going to be able to find that?
Yeah, just Google DJB tax facts.
DJB tax facts.
Yeah, so up at the top there, you got from 0 to 42. So there's like,
Ontario.
I don't know, 10 different... That's the combined Ontario and federal.
Gotcha.
And then the top bracket at $220,000, you're paying 53.53%.
Right. How often is this updated? Not your site, but like the
rates.
Yeah.
Generally annually when the budget,
they do change
when the
them?
federal budget or provincial budget comes out. So we'll see a stretch, depending on when elections are, of 2 to 3 years where nothing changes, and then you'll see a whole bunch of changes over 2 to 3 years. I try not to get political today, but
There's going to be a little bit of political talk. There has to be.
Right.
No, it has to be. But when you're talking this stuff.
Right. And I won't get over whether you agree with whatever or not.
Yeah.
But when the Liberal government federally got in, they really jacked up the rates. So previously, the top tax rate was at $500,000, and it was 46.16%.
Really?
So
how long ago was that? Like 3 years ago or whatever? 4 years ago?
Like
Because we're coming up on election.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So now the top tax bracket went from 500 down to 220.
Wow.
And from 46.14 down to, or up to 53.53. So, like, anytime people talk about how the high income earners don't pay their fair share, it's a frustrating conversation to have, because paying 53.53% of what you earn over that amount is a big amount of tax.
It's a lot.
It's over half. And then add in your HST, your property tax, all the other taxes, and suddenly you're paying, 60% of your income in
right.
tax, give or take.
We are a heavily taxed area.
Yeah, you know what? I've looked at it compared to other jurisdictions.
Right.
And it's not completely terrible compared to the U.S.
Really?
We were better before this, but the thing we're not paying is we're not paying healthcare. We generally don't pay tolls. Where
right.
you get into the U.S., there's so many toll roads everywhere. They have to pay for their healthcare and the rest of it. And when you add it all together, they a lot more
close.
private schooling in the U.S. because the public school system isn't near what ours is.
Like as good or
yeah.
Really? See, this is why I want to have you on. You're a smart dude. I love it. I feel like my life is so micro, because like I'm out there selling houses and eating burgers. This is my life. So this is all I see is houses, burgers, people. But you, in your industry, you're looking at a much bigger picture, like much bigger.
Yeah, the nice part is because we deal with clients in all different industries.
Yeah.
We see a lot of what's going on in Niagara. The one spot we get disconnected is because we deal with business owners or people running businesses. We get disconnected from kind of the regular, everyday people, so to speak.
Yeah.
The people generally are struggling and stuff like that. Although we see businesses doing well, we see businesses not doing well. So that part of it's interesting.
Yeah. So
the when people talk about the rich people getting away with the taxes and the rest of it, that still happens. I mean, we can look at the Panama Papers of all of the richest people in the country hiding their money offshore. Right. That's totally an issue. Like that's rich people, I guess, not doing anything necessarily illegal, but exploiting things that should be fixed.
Right.
Where your everyday people who are making this kind of money are paying a ton of tax.
Right.
So when people rant against people not paying their fair share, there's those two distinctions. If you're a billionaire, you're probably got some money offshore and you're doing things, but everyday people are paying a ton of tax.
Right. So is there like somebody that gets hit the hardest, or it's just...
Not really. I mean, if you're over so if you're a professional athlete, you're basically looking at 53.53. So if you want to talk about the Maple Leafs' ability to attract talent, let's not use the Maple Leafs because people play in Toronto just to be in Toronto.
Right.
How about the Senators? Because nobody wants to play
in
for
Ottawa.
the Senators.
Yeah.
Those players are looking at giving up way more of their money than anyone playing in Florida, which has no state tax.
No state tax?
No state income tax in Florida, so you only pay federal. If you're
Is that in Nevada or Las Vegas as well? There's a few states like that.
Yep.
No income tax.
Correct.
That's insane.
Yep.
How does that state make up for that lost income? It sounds great to me, but then on the flip, the state is giving up a huge revenue source.
I'm assuming Nevada gets
lots of gambling.
The gambling tax. Florida, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if there's a big land transfer tax, because a lot of properties turning over for vacationers. They have a tourist tax in the tourist cities, I believe. And then they got toll roads everywhere.
Right.
They don't have to cover healthcare. Their roads don't deteriorate quite like ours do because they don't have winter.
Right. Roads are a huge expense here.
Absolutely.
Huge. That's one thing I've learned since I've started doing these is how expensive roads are for the government. Like, it's crazy. It's one of the biggest expenses, I think. It's got to be up there.
Yeah, for sure. You look at any time anything's in the paper, and there was an announcement last week about infrastructure and whatever it is, like $1.7 million to repave 1 kilometer.
That's insane.
Of South Pelham Road.
That's insane.
It's a lot of money.
It's tons of money.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
So one of the things I definitely want to talk to you about is...
I'm not done my misconceptions about tax, though.
Okay,
so
yeah.
You can hold on. You can make notes. You can write it down. You can write your thoughts down on your hand.
Yeah. Do I have paper? Yeah, misconceptions. These are good. Oh, this is not one I want to write down. Another misconception.
Okay, another one run into a lot. If you tell people, oh, you owe X amount of tax. Come April, they go, if I would have known, I would have done an RSP of that much money to offset it. And a lot of people think RSPs come off dollar for dollar from the tax you owe.
Right.
Because the answer is, well, I didn't have $10,000 to pay my tax, but I would have borrowed $10,000 to put it in RSPs because at least it's still my money.
Right.
But $10,000 in RSPs will only save at those rates. So that would save you, say, $4,300 of tax, and you still owe $5,700 on top.
Right.
So then suddenly you need to borrow $10,000 for an RSP plus $5,700. You're paying $15,000.
Interest on that.
Then take off your savings, and it never works out to be. People think dollar for dollar RSP saves. I mean that doesn't.
And it depends on what bracket you're in.
RSPs save you at the top bracket you're in, the marginal rate you're at. So
the top one.
Yeah.
So that's actually good.
Absolutely. So if you're making $240,000 and you put $20,000 in RSPs, you'll save that $20,000 at 53.53%.
And it's not tiered. Yeah.
Well, then if you put in $30,000, so it dropped you down to the lower tier, then 20 would be in the top and 10 would be in the lower.
Gotcha.
So that's where the new housing rules don't really help you. So if you have a student or somebody who came out of school and their parents will lend them money to do their RSP, injection, pull out on the home buyer's plan. But if they're only making $40,000 out of school, they're saving at 20%.
Right.
Where in the future, if they're going to make more money, they could be saving at a higher percent. So do you want to use your RSP room
now
in a low bracket
and
then not have it available at the high bracket? And the key to RSPs is to contribute when you're at the highest, and then when you retire, hopefully draw it out at a lower bracket.
And what I've heard from through the grapevine of people that do really well is they've second-guessed RSPs because they were doing them along the way when they were making money, but then along the way they made other investments, and now when they retire, they're still making a good income. And now I think at some point you have to draw your RSPs, right?
At age 72.
Yeah.
You start taking them out.
Have to. Yeah.
And so the government has set percentages that have to come out every year. 7% in the first year, and then it increases every year after that. Because the goal is you want to try and draw it out before you die.
Right.
Can't leave it in there forever. So the downside is, and people worry about it, because if you get over $77,000 in your retirement, you have to pay back your old age security. And that's what people want to avoid. So if your minimum RIF withdrawals get you over that, then you lose your old age security. And old age security is just basically free government money.
How much? Okay.
$600 a month, I think.
And you start getting that.
You can start collecting it at age 65, or you can defer it up to age 70. So in that range.
Gotcha.
Although in the future, they change the rules to 67. Start collecting at 67.
So if we're talking about this too, not to get off the misconceptions, we'll come back. But I've heard people talk about the CPP and that old age one, about not being there when we get to that age.
Right.
Is that possible?
Yes and no. So you grouped in two things, CPP and old age security.
Yeah.
CPP is paid out of the tax system. So the money we pay in today gets rerouted out to seniors
from income tax?
From income tax.
Okay.
Nobody's technically contributed to it. You haven't put money aside for old age security. It's an annual inflow and outflow. So old age security could definitely not be there. If there's no money the government has left, they could say, no old age security.
So where does the money come from old age security?
Just the tax base.
Okay.
So when you pay in now, it's just a normal expense.
Gotcha.
It just comes out of the...
Gotcha.
So they've moved it from 65 to 67, looking at where the bubble of people are and the rest of it, saying there's not going to be enough money, so people can work a couple of years longer and will pay less old age security. CPP, everybody contributes specifically to.
Right.
So
we all do. Does anybody not?
Yes.
Who does not?
Anybody who's not earning a salary. So if you have a company...
So am I?
You're paying CPP, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get into how you can get out of CPP later if you own a company.
Right.
Because I spent a lot of time talking about whether CPP is a good investment or not.
Interesting.
But before we get there, write this one down on your hand. We'll go back to it.
Okay. I should be, because I don't have the best memory. I got to grab a piece of paper. Okay, keep going.
So all those marijuana sticks.
Yeah. Well, just looking at them hurts my memory.
CPP we pay into. So the maximum CPP contributions now are about $2,500 for the employee, and then the employer matches it. So $5,000 a year.
Okay.
The amount you contribute, the number of years you contribute over your life of working, dictates how much of a benefit you get in the future. Yeah, sure, whatever. We broke the string.
Now we're talking.
Might as well keep drinking. That's good. Thanks. Yeah. I do have to stumble back to Welland later.
You can stay. I've got an extra room. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so everybody contributes in to it. So there's money you've paid in specifically for this, so they keep it aside.
For me?
Yeah.
Essentially-ish?
Yeah, so there's I don't even know what it's called. The CPP has an investment board, and they specifically manage this money separate from the government coffers. So they don't dip into, we need to build a new bridge in Dane City. Let's take the CPP money for that. It's separately invested. They own airports. It's kind of like the teacher's pension plan. Like they own a lot of stuff.
And this is Canada, so this is a federal thing, federal board.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yep. So that money's invested, so that should be there when we retire. In theory, if the investments were bad or people live longer than they expected on the actuarial reports, there could be less money than expected. But I think last time I looked, the CPP was overfunded and in good shape.
Really?
So I'm not really too worried about CPP. Old age security, I wouldn't count on.
Wouldn't bank on that one.
Yeah.
Is there a way to see either of the funds? Do they post publicly?
I think the CPP board
really
posts annual information.
Interesting. Old age
security doesn't. That's just money coming out of the government's fund. So we're running a $30 billion deficit this year. That means they didn't have enough to pay the old age security. But they just keep borrowing money from places to pay for things.
Right. So. And that's a big thing that I want to talk about. But we'll still wait. These misconceptions are great. So old age security, we there's a chance might go away. CPP is looking at it.
Yeah, there's a chance it might go away because it's not funded. But public policy wise, it would be terrible to remove it because it's helping the people in the most need.
Does anybody qualify for it?
Old age security, you have to have lived in Canada for 5 years or 2 years or something like that, and then be under that $77,000 income threshold, and be over 65.
So if you're still making over $77,000, you wouldn't get it.
It starts to get clawed back at 15% for every dollar over until you hit about $125,000, and then you don't get it anymore. So these people that you're talking to who are saying, well, now I bring my RSPs in and I got this other money, so it's a big detriment.
Yeah.
The only real concern is you lose your old age security. And in a complete fairness world, you probably didn't need the free government money. There's other people out there that need it more than you.
Right.
So count your blessings, you are where you are.
Yeah.
And give up your $7,000 a year.
Right.
But I wouldn't not contribute to RSPs for that purpose.
Right.
Which is what people are saying, I'm going to get so much in RSPs and I'm going to have this issue. I mean, if you're in your retirement and you got $150,000 each between you and your spouse per year, you don't have a lot to cry about. Right?
Yeah, of course.
So the key with RSPs you want to is to contribute when you're in those high brackets. And if possible, pull it out in a lower bracket. But even if you don't pull it out in a lower bracket, you're not disadvantaged. So if somebody was fortunate enough to be making $250,000 a year now, I'd still contribute to RSPs to save that 53.53%. Yeah. Even if they pull out when they're 72 years old and they lose their old age security and they're in the top tax bracket, they got to defer tax for that long. And then the income on the RSPs kept growing tax-free for 20-something years.
The income on the RSP grows tax-free?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Everything that happens in the RSP is tax-free.
Just like a TFSA?
Yes.
Interesting. Tax-free?
Well, and on an RSP, it's tax-deferred because you pull it out.
Until you pull it out.
So a TFSA, you put $5,000 in and it grows, you buy a marijuana stick company and it grows to be $100,000. You can pull the whole $100,000 out, no taxes at all.
No taxes.
You put the same $5,000 in RSP, it goes up to be $100,000. When you pull that $100,000,
right,
you're paying tax on the full $100,000.
Right.
So it's not the most advantageous at times. I mean, you're still happy you made $100,000.
Yeah.
But now you have to pay tax on it. If you would have put that $5,000 unregistered investment, so not in a TFSA or an RSP, and it grows to be $100,000, you have a capital gain, which is only half taxable.
Capital gain, not income.
Correct. Well, it's basically income, but it's income that's half taxable. So that $95,000 gain,
yeah,
you're going to pay tax on $47,500 of it. Where if it was in your RSP, you'd pay tax on the whole $100,000.
Really?
So if you have something that could have explosive growth, using an RSP is not the best route.
So you don't want to invest risky with RSPs.
Right.
More safe place.
Right.
Gotcha.
So if you're going with something that could be explosive growth or go down to zero kind of thing, TFSA is a good place for it.
Interesting.
RSPs are better for long, steady growth.
Like real estate investments.
Well, real estate investments in RSPs are tough.
It is tough, eh?
Yeah.
They don't.
Generally, RSPs are market investments. There are ways to do mortgages out of them.
Second mortgages or mortgages, yeah.
And I think you know those rules better than I do. They're tough to do.
Yeah.
It's tough to find the right institution that'll do them.
Exactly.
And then to actually do them is tough. So generally, RSPs are stocks, bonds,
that's
GICs.
That's the safe play and what most people likely do.
And what the rules really restrict you to.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, quick recap, because a lot of this stuff is high level for me. RSPs, safer long-term investments. TFSAs, if you got some money in there, do a little bit of gambling.
Yeah, if you're gonna gamble, it's a.
And then unregistered. When was that?
Normally, we leave unregistered until TFSAs and RSPs are maxed out.
Gotcha.
In general,
Gotcha.
But if you spend your life just playing these speculative things that could take off or not, and you already maxed out your TFSA, then you might be better holding it in unregistered rather than an RSP.
Gotcha.
Kind of case by case basis. Most people don't run into this, but when you do, it's always good to put it in the right spot.
Yeah.
Because it could be really costly to put in an RSP.
Gotcha. This was good stuff.
But RSPs are still good. Even high net worth people, losing your OAS, I wouldn't deter people from
RSPs.
There are times when we look at it. Because if you can manage it and save your old age security, because using a TFSA won't cost you your old age security when you go to spend it. Because the TFSA is different from an RSP. Because it doesn't really hit the tax system. So the RSP, when you make the contribution, you get a tax deduction. When you take the money out of it, you have a taxable income. TFSA, right. You put the money in, nothing happens on the tax system. You pull the money out, nothing happens on the tax system. So if there's a way to build your TFSA up to be your retirement rather than your RSP, there's validity to using that as a tool to try and save your old age security in the future. But it's tough to jungle, and that's why professional advice is generally
very
good to seek out, and wealth managers. DJB Wealth Management can help you with your retirement planning.
Good plug. But I find this legit. Like, I find it interesting myself, the different people I talk to, how many people, what they do with their income tax. Like, there's people that go to professionals like you that I think is best. That's why I'm with you. But there's people that do it themselves to save whatever your fees are. There's people that use, like, I don't even know, what's H&R Block?
Yeah.
That kind of seems, I don't even know what they are. To me, they kind of seem like, maybe I'm wrong, but I'll tell you my perception. They're like the McDonald's. I don't know if it's true or not. You go there and you get whatever little services. I don't even know if it's true, just from what. And then some people I don't even know what they do. Some people don't really do income tax. I don't know. It's crazy. But I think I don't know if at any level people should be working with a firm like you, or is, like you said, you work with more businesses, but do you take on like a 9 to 5er? Would you take on a 9 to 5er? Would they benefit from your services, or would they?
We do a ton of personal tax without doing the corporate side of it.
Right.
Most people don't need any help. Like I'm going to say 85% of the population, you get the CAN software, you do it online, CAN tax, whatever they're called. People always ask me for recommendations, but I don't use that software, so I don't really know what good ones are. If you got a T4 from your employment and that's it, plug it in the software and you're done. I mean, to do your tax return, absolutely.
I like hearing you say that.
Taxes aren't difficult to prepare for most people.
9 to 5ers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
You got a T5 from your bank, from your savings account. You got your T4, a couple donation slips, and you're done. 6 minutes later, it's over. Then there's the preparers out there, the other maybe not chartered accountants or CPAs doing tax returns. And a lot of them have become accustomed to doing it, and they can probably put that information in very good. We see a lot of sketchier stuff coming from some other people where I know stuff I don't want to touch. They're making stuff up, and I got this tax problem. How do I solve it? Suddenly there's a fake business on the person's return, and they're all going to jail. And like I tell you every year, Joe, my goal is to keep you out of jail.
Yeah, I don't want to go there.
So our services, I mean, we prepare tax returns for a lot of people, and we'd like to, we provide that extra level of knowledge. So things like first-time home buyers and some of this other stuff. Sometimes you see things and you can point out to the people, hey, you're contributing to RSPs and you really shouldn't be, or stuff like that. But to be honest, it doesn't happen a ton. But when people need the advice, that's the best time to come to us. Hey, I'm inheriting X amount of money, or I'm selling this property and I don't know the tax implications of it.
Right.
Or they run a business, or they have rental properties, or things that become more complicated. So even a small business that goes on your personal tax return. Real estate agents are basically a small business. Mm-hmm. You've got expenses, so then I don't know, can I claim this? Can I claim that? And that's where we can keep you on the straight and narrow.
Right.
Again, you go to other people who don't know, maybe you get a better tax result this year because you're like, yeah, claim everything. Joe, claim all the burgers you want.
Yeah.
Right? You claim 800 jackets being made for you. But next thing you know, serious down your throat. And they're oddly getting more aggressive with inconsequential amounts of money.
Yeah.
Than going after the Panama Papers people that I previously mentioned.
What's Panama Papers? What is this even reference?
Oh, you don't read the news.
No.
It was like 3 years ago. Panama Papers, they found there was a law firm or something in a tax sheltered island down in the Caribbean. I can't remember which one. And they released all their customers or clients' list and how much money and where they had it stored. And so there was all these Canadians on the list of people that had money held offshore that wouldn't be reporting it in Canada.
Right.
So they have all this knowledge of who these people are, but getting political here.
Right.
They're friends with people in the government, prime minister, and so they're not going after him. So
I gotta keep feeding you drinks. This is getting good. Yeah.
There's a lot of tax dollars to be had. You bring these people in with their $1 billion. It's way better after going after Joe's 14 burgers. Mm-hmm. I mean, the $21 burgers are great write-off, but when you're getting a $6 Blue Star burger, it's not even worth the write-off.
Right.
I mean, there's no tax savings.
Right.
Just deliciousness in your belly.
I love it. I love it. You've seen some of the videos, eh?
I've seen them.
I love it. Other misconceptions. Oh, wow. These are good. This is good. See, I knew I would be learning stuff when you came on here. Well, okay.
I've been talking so much. My mind away.
Yeah.
I didn't have a pen and paper, so I got nothing to write down. Go back to one of these other questions. Well, so many tangents here.
Yeah. No, just play off of that. So I like how you say that most people won't require your services. That's good, honest. That makes me even feel more comfortable working with you. That you're not like everybody would have to come in here. Because I try to do the same thing. Like, a lot of people, just to plug it back to me, think that I sell houses. I don't really have to sell houses. People they pick the houses they want. Like, I don't walk in a house and try and have them buy it. I point out what is good or what's not, but they decide, right? So I see a similarity there.
The services you provide in general will be on the listing side, pricing properly.
Oh, it's huge.
Because I might sell my own house and I was listed for $200,000. It would have been worth $400,000 if I used a professional, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where professionals can save you big.
For sure. Tons of guidance. Like my role definitely in selling, helping people get the right price. That's like I have down here. I spend tons of time doing these analysis, comparative market analysis. To me, it's the biggest part when selling a house is getting it priced right and then doing the marketing. And I pride myself on both of those things. But after that, it's a lot of guidance and helping people avoid not so much going to jail with me, but the big pitfalls that you can get yourself into. Like I've heard of horror stories with people selling privately or even with a realtor less experienced and putting their clients in bad situations. Like,
even on the buying side, you know what to look out for.
Yeah.
And the questions to ask if there's zoning issues or things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why people deal with anybody can put a sign up and say, here's my house.
Yeah. A lot of people think that selling a house is putting up the sign, for sale sign, putting up the sold sign, collecting the check. But there's so much. That's just what the public sees most to it. But there's a little more to it than that.
Marginally more. It's not rocket surgery.
Yeah, no doubt. I love it.
When I'm done insulting your profession, let's get back to this.
Well, we can circle back. Which one do you want to go?
We'll go the first one, dodging the CPP. So you asked if everybody pays CPP.
Yeah.
All employees pay CPP.
Okay.
You pay CPP up to about $57,500 of income. And then anything above that, you don't pay CPP on. So it gets you up to that base level. Your employer matches it.
Which is roughly, or how much is it?
$2,500 or $2,750 each. It's on the bottom page of the tax facts card. Keep going down right at the bottom. Max CPP is $2,748.90. On the bottom left there.
By the employee and employer.
Yeah.
So I'm neither.
You're both.
I'm both.
You're both.
Oh, shit.
Because you're technically self-employed, you pay both the employee and the employer portion.
That's what I've been paying?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're paying $5,500 a year to benefit in the future when you turn 60 or 65 or 70. You have three options when you collect or many more. Okay, so you can avoid it if somebody or a business is incorporated. So you can't do it personally. But if you are incorporated, then you can choose to take remuneration as a dividend rather than a salary. And dividends don't attract CPP.
Okay.
So dividends, I'm trying to explain this without confusing people.
Yeah, layman's terms. Joe terms here.
Joe terms. In a company, if you pay yourself a salary, so say your company makes $50,000 and you pay yourself a $50,000 salary out of it. Your company then has made zero.
Right.
Then you pay tax on $50,000. You have your full CPP.
Personal income tax.
Yeah, gotcha. Corporation doesn't have any income. 50 and 50.
Yeah.
Zero. If you go to dividends, corporation makes $50,000. It has no salary. So $50,000 of taxable income. Small business rate, 13.5% right now. Then it pays a dividend out to you, which it doesn't get a deduction for. Then you pay personal tax, but you get a reduction in your personal tax to offset the fact that the company's already paid 13.5%.
Gotcha.
So the total combined income tax is about the same. It's within 1%. Either way. So you're not disadvantaged paying one way or the other, but you don't pay CPP doing it through the dividend route.
Right.
So you're actually $5,500 more in your pocket.
Yeah.
Now when you're 60 or 65 and you retire, you're not going to collect CPP either. So you should have done something productive with that $5,500.
Right.
Put it in investment property, put it in an RSP, wherever you want, but saved it for the future.
Right.
So then
interesting.
So the question always becomes, because a lot of people I deal with are small business owners, incorporated, so we have the option of avoiding CPP or not. The question becomes, can you make better use of your $5,500 versus the government using your $5,500? And that's debatable.
Sometimes yes, sometimes
that's
no.
That's debatable, but yeah. I generally lean towards you can use better use of it. The biggest spot you get is when you die. If you paid CPP in, the CPP death benefit is $2,500. and you're done.
That's it.
If you have no spouse or remaining kids, you're done. If you die, say you worked for 25 years and you took that $5,500 a year and you put it into an RSP, and then you die, and no spouse or kids, you've got $5,500 times 25 years, $140,000 plus the growth on it, which should have at least doubled. You've got $280,000 to leave behind.
Right.
Versus $2,500 on the CPP side.
Right.
So the pool of money you have is a lot better when it's in your own pocket versus when the government has it.
That's if you die.
That's if you die.
Yeah.
Everybody will. Spoiler alert.
Son of a...
The other side of it is how much do you get when you go to collect.
Right.
And you can run spreadsheets to figure it out. But if you had say $280,000 and you were going to draw that down on $12,000 a year but still have growth in it versus the government. So obviously the longer you live, the better off you are with CPP. You live to be 120, it's going to pay a better return than having the money in your own pocket.
Most of the time.
Probably, unless you were like the world's best Warren Buffett investor.
Right.
It's probably going to win. But if you die young, CPP, you generally lose. Now, if you leave behind a spouse or minor children or children who are in university, there's a spousal pension that gets paid to them.
Right.
But it's reduced by what your spouse is already collecting, so it's not like you get all your money back.
Right.
And your kids will get a top-up survivor benefit until they turn 18 or until they finish university. Idea? So, for most people, it's not a terrible investment because if you're only looking at, they pay half of it.
Right.
And they get the same benefit that Joe gets paying double. So you and the guy beside you on the street, and you paid in $5,500 and he paid in $2,750,
right.
And you're both going to collect $12,000 at the end of the day. Who got a better return? Well, his was double yours.
Right.
So that's where it's tough for small business owners to pay in. Now,
this makes sense.
To throw another monkey wrench into it, I'm not going to name the name of the government that changed the rules, but a government has changed the rules and doubled effectively what the contributions are going to be over the next 3 to 4 years.
Is this good or bad?
Well, now it's going to cost Joe $10,000 a year.
Oh, wow.
But when you go to retire at 65, the amount you can collect will go up. So what the government found was that people don't have enough money in retirement to fund themselves. So because they think that people are incompetent and can't save money themselves, which might partially be true at times, they're taking more money out of your pocket to give you more when you retire.
Right.
So
it's tough.
It's tougher.
Here's the tough variable as I see it. Nobody knows when they're going to die. Right? If we knew when we would die, it's a little bit easier to make retirement planning.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So this is the unknown variable that's tough, but we can work off of law of averages, right? Average. What do you know? What is it? 75-ish that we live to?
I think females, I just went over, I think it was higher.
Yeah?
I think females are like 84 and men are like 78 or something like that.
We're doing that good now.
It's online.
They're not eating burgers every week.
We need like the sports guys that have fact checkers at the end.
Yeah.
Where's Robin to do our fact checking?
Yeah, I know. We need that. Where is she? She's not here.
Robin doesn't even exist. She's not even real.
No. Fake news.
So yeah, the tough part is the government's saying that people don't have enough to retire, but they're taking more money out of your pocket today.
Which makes it even harder.
Which makes it harder to live today.
Yeah.
And I would totally agree that people don't have enough when they retire, but I totally agree that people don't have enough today to live on it. And that's why they're not saving this extra money.
Right.
And unless it's kind of people, middle-income people who are spending that money on frivolous things today. If they take that away from you, you won't buy a 75-inch TV.
Right.
You'll be able to retire rather than people who can't feed themselves.
Right.
So it's a tough balance.
So one thing I'm hearing too, if somebody's working with you guys, a lot easier to invest their money with good guidance. Somebody without guidance, it's going to be hard. So CPP might be better for a clocker, 9 to 5er, without any guidance. Maybe just to go the CPP route. No, maybe yes. No. There's no right answer for everything.
And for most people, they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
For a 9 to 5 clocker, as you call them, people who are employed somewhere, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You're an employee. You're going to pay it anyway. So be thankful that your employer is
matching.
paying half of it.
Yeah.
And it's not a terrible investment when you're only paying half.
Yeah.
The return's not terrible. CPP is doing a good job investing. And the thing that CPP has on their side is they're investing billions of dollars. So they can put it into much cooler spots. Like the teacher's pension owns a big chunk of the Maple Leafs.
Yeah, it's wild.
And just for the record, I hate the Maple Leafs. So just because I brought them up twice, they're my least favorite team. Go Sabres. Don't make fun of me because the Sabres suck. I get it.
Yeah, it's all good.
But that's fine.
Sabres are my favorite American team because of the vicinity to us. But I'm a Leafs fan.
Oh. Well, I'll take that. We'll go to a game.
Yeah, I like it.
We'll go to a game.
I like it.
And that's how it all started with me. They're 30 minutes.
Yeah,
door to
they're
door
right
to
here.
the arena.
Yeah,
dirt cheap.
Yeah,
I love selling my tickets to Leafs fans. Make a lot of money.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Stick it to the Leafs fans. And I hate going to the Leafs games because it's all Leafs fans there because we all sell our tickets to make money. So what can you do? Okay, but CPP.
Yeah.
The one part that's, I guess, backtrack a little bit, is tough is the burden on employers, and most employees think, like, I'm getting screwed by my employer, and, like, since I deal with the employers, I'm clearly on that side of the table for the most part. I like to see people having a good livelihood. Mm-hmm. But the employers never get credit for, they pay your CPP, they pay half the EI, they pay potentially based on your
How does EI work? While we're on that.
EI, also on this sheet.
Wow, you guys got lots on here.
The employee pays up to $860, and the employer pays 1.4 times that amount. They pay 40% more than the employee.
Are we looking 80, 60, and 1204?
Yep. That's the EI side.
Okay, so this is... Yeah, see, look, I can learn more about EI while we're here.
So total on those, your employer could be paying up to $4,000 a year on things you generally never see. And I mean, that should form part of a total compensation package.
100%.
When we look at what people are getting paid on the employer side, you take the base pay, which is what most people feel like they get. But we call it generally a 25% burden on all the extras they have to pay between CPP, EI, WSIB, Workers and Safety Insurance Board, EHT, which is the health tax, employer's health tax, which is 1.95%. And then you add on all these extra burdens the employer has from paying for these employees, and their tax rates are like they're paying tax everywhere you look.
Yeah.
And people look at companies and go, oh, these companies, they don't pay any tax, they save all this money.
So good.
Joe's playing footsies with me.
You're welcome. The juice is kicking in.
And so there's a lot of different taxes out there that they're paying.
Right, tons.
But given a choice of CPP as an employer, it's definitely worth the discussion one way or the other. Employees have no choice.
Right.
So
that's very interesting. So then EI, this is a good topic here. So an employee's got to pay if they're making $53,000 or more, $860 a year.
Up to 53. So you pay from $0 all the way up to 53,000.
And then you would pay.
You max out at $840. $860.
Yeah.
And then you don't pay anything over that. So if you earn $200,000, you're still paying the same $860 as the guy who's earning $53,000.
Do I pay EI?
You don't pay EI. So because you're self-employed,
right,
you don't have to pay EI. CPP is mandatory. EI is not for self-employed people.
Right.
Up to 5 or 6 years ago, maybe, you couldn't pay EI, maybe even longer. But now you could choose to if you wanted. And the reason that self-employed people don't pay EI is because you couldn't collect. Like, I fire myself and now I want to collect EI. Right? EI is there to protect the guys and girls who get laid off or lose their job and to help people continue, to live at that point in time.
Right.
When you can't dictate, or when you can dictate when you work and when you don't work, they don't want to give you money.
Right.
More or less. So you now under the new rules, you could pay EI, and presumably the thought process behind that is more for females than males. I guess now with paternity leave, it could be for males. But if you're going to have a kid and you're going to want to take time off,
right,
you can elect to pay into EI. And if as long as you paid in for 2 years, then you want to take time off, then you could collect. But then when you go back to work, you're paying back in for life.
Oh, yeah.
Like once you choose, you can't turn it off. You can't say, Rob and I are going to have a kid in 2 years, so I'm going to start paying EI, and then I'll collect, And then as soon as I go back to work, I'm not going to pay EI anymore. Not going to happen. So you choose to pay in, you're paying in.
You're in now.
Right. Unless we can then incorporate you and get you out of it that way. But
Gotcha.
so EI is more of a protectionary thing for people who hit hard times, more or less. It's a good mechanism. I think as a society we need that for people. A lot of people will go their whole life and never need it. And then, they'll complain, maybe, possibly. People love complaining.
Right.
I paid all my whole life and I never got to collect it. Well, I think you should count yourself lucky because all those people out there who then did need it.
Right.
Paid. So it's not the end of the world. So you could elect to. I've never brought it up to you, giving you the option, because I don't think it's a good option for people to do unless you knew specifically, we're going to have a kid. We're planning on it. We're going to do it. And then after that, I'm not going to be self-employed. I'm going to go work for someone. Then you could kind of,
groom yourself for that.
For that, but
not my plan.
Not worth it.
So it's a good safety net that we actually have here.
Basically. And we run into it a lot with companies, and people don't always pay attention. Technically, if you're a 40% shareholder in a company, you don't have to pay EI. So we run into where people say you have 4 shareholders. You and your 3 brothers. I have no clue if you're brothers, but now you do. You have 3 of them because you're from Lane Fleet, so everybody's got 3 brothers.
Yeah, lots of Dutch around here.
So you set up a company, you're all 25% shareholders. Technically, you should all be paying EI on your wage. And sometimes people do, and sometimes they forget. Interestingly, if you made the argument that your employment wasn't at arm's length from these other people, you can get out of it.
Interesting.
You can make an application, and you ask for a ruling for EI, and you say, you know what, these are my brothers, and I shouldn't be paying because we're not, for whatever, and you outline the circumstances. I come and go as I please. We wouldn't offer this to an unrelated person, the little amount of work I do.
Right.
And you can try and get out of it, you get a ruling from them. And then if they rule against you, you just lay yourself off. And then you collect EI. And you go, I got you.
Really? That's hilarious.
So EI is kind of goofy. But it's protection for most employees, and we should be protecting employees where we can.
Yeah, for sure. Did we cover everything on this cheat sheet here? Automobile limits? What's that about?
Yeah, so the government sets limits of how much you can reimburse an employee for driving. So there's a couple ways you can own a vehicle for business purposes. Say it's your own company. You're not incorporated, but if you had a company, you can own a vehicle in the company, which has its own tax consequences, or you can own a vehicle personally, and then those rules maximize what you can pay yourself. So you can pay yourself 58 cents a kilometer for the first 5,000 kilometers, and then 52 cents a kilometer for anything after that.
Right.
That's so you can't say, I own a big truck and it costs me a lot of money, so I'm going to pay myself $1.50 per kilometer.
Right.
Government says no, 58 cents is the cap, and it amounts to a lot of money.
Gotcha.
I guess we could talk about, since we're scheduled to go to like 7 p.m., right?
Yeah, we're going to be here all day. You don't eat, so we don't have to
I don't
leave.
eat, I got nothing. So on that topic, think of the time savings. So picture this. I'm in a world where I work a lot, and I don't have a lot of free time. So I don't need to prepare food. I don't need to clean up food. I don't need to sit and eat food.
You're more productive.
And you don't need to work out because you're not eating anything. So the amount of time you save a day is like anywhere from an hour and a half or maybe an hour going out to get food.
At least, yeah.
To like including workouts, you could save like 3 hours a day.
That's wild. That's a good way to buy time.
It's like when Kramer in Seinfeld started just sleeping in small batches. This is the system I'm running on right now. Stop eating, just grab a protein shake and go.
I can see protein shake. I personally, that's my breakfast, is a protein shake. But I get hungry a few hours later. But I've never followed up with another protein shake. But I couldn't imagine not eating.
That's where the grapefruit juice comes in. It has magical properties that make you not hungry.
Really?
Google magical properties of grapefruit juice.
I
don't know if it'll really come up or not.
Yeah, I don't know. But I know grapefruits are great. Like, it's so...
Not cheap, though. Like, as far as... Grapefruits are like $2, $2.50 per grapefruit. And it's taking like 2.5 to 3 per juice.
Well, I mean, magic costs money, right?
Absolutely. This is a $7 drink right there.
Still cheaper than a lot of hamburgers.
mean, you can have 3 hamburgers for.
If you head down Niagara on the Lake.
Yeah, you eat 1 hamburger for every 3 grapefruit juice.
That's not bad. So okay, now I gotta ask, like, what has been? How many protein shakes? How many grapefruit juices have you been consuming?
Try to do 2 protein drinks, and they're just buying like these off the shelf ones. Fairlife, Core Power or something like that. They're delicious.
Yeah. So 2 of those.
2 of those, and then a grapefruit juice.
Just 1 grapefruit juice.
Yeah, and if I got super hungry, that's when I was having soup. The last couple weeks, like full disclosure, I put in some Ritz crackers and stuff like that.
Wow, super light. So your like calorie consumption has been like a few hundred calories a day.
Yeah, you're 500 to
that's crazy.
Maybe 1,000.
What about your water consumption?
I started out real good. I was just pounding water. I bought these huge water bottles from Costco and just pounding them like 5 liters a day. And then I've regressed back to energy drinks and Diet Pepsi, which I was trying to get away from. But so
I think it'll probably be good to be eating again.
Yeah,
once you get to your weight.
I got a long way to go for that. I got a couple of vacations I've been told I have to eat on.
Yeah? Balance is good. My balance is not right, but I know balance is good.
You only eat on Saturdays, right? When you film the burgers. And you don't eat the rest of the week.
That would be good balance, probably. You do follow. I like it.
You do CrossFit, too. I saw one time.
One time. That was my New Year's...
My New Year's resolution was to do CrossFit one time.
One time. It was good, too.
It's like every Lent. I quit smoking.
You smoke?
No.
Oh.
So it's easy to go 40 days without it.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, that's like making a resolution to do CrossFit one time.
Lent, I usually give up liver and onions, too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's easy.
Exactly. Just don't ask me to give up grapefruit juice.
Okay.
Freshly squeezed, though. Like, this isn't store-bought.
So you do it yourself?
Yeah.
Do you have a juicer? Or?
Yeah, I got 2 juicers, a normal one and a citrus one.
See, okay.
I'm not using the normal one right now.
If we're going to talk about this, juicing through a juicer is one of my favorite things. But I don't do it because the cleanup is a nightmare.
As far as a nightmare, if you're talking about the 2.5 minutes it takes to clean it, I'll agree. It's like every time I go to empty the dishwasher, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to empty the dishwasher again. And then like 40 seconds later when you're done, you're like, it wasn't that bad.
So cleaning a juicer isn't too bad.
It isn't too bad.
Okay, maybe I got to look into it because I haven't juiced in years, but I love the juice that comes out of a juicer.
I mean, based on the muscles coming out of that jacket, I would say you're juicing big time.
You're hilarious. Fresh juice is amazing.
Yeah,
it is. It is.
I used to go like a hardcore juice diet and juice celery and cucumber and you name it. I have apples, throw it all in there. But now I've simplified life and just gone grapefruit.
So what kind of juicer do you have? You have 2 juicers, you said.
Yeah, they're Brayville juicers. One's like just a normal one. You throw everything in it juices it.
Do you do anything with the pulp? Or you just toss the pulp?
Out, yeah.
Yeah? You don't get crazy and make like...
And you can make muffins and
grapefruit
like that,
jello or something?
I guess I could swear on here. Almost.
Oh, you can say anything you want.
I guess if you're smoking marijuana sticks on here, I can...
You can do it. You're not going to get fired from your job.
You never know. You never know. Anything could happen.
Your partner, no?
Yeah, that's... Who knows? You have 25 partners. They can vote me out.
Yeah, I guess. I hope we haven't offended anybody, any of your partners so far.
I don't think so. I don't think yet.
No.
We haven't gotten there.
So, okay. I don't even know how far we're in.
We were on CPP.
Okay, I want to just get to one of the topics and then we can circle anyway.
Okay.
Because one of the things that we were talking about last time I seen you that blew my mind. So I'm going to do a little...
This is getting political now, isn't it?
There is going to be.
Okay.
But you can play it any way you want. So will lead up to this. I went to a seminar, I don't know how long ago, 4, 5, 6 months ago. And it was a real estate seminar. And I learned a lot. But one of the things that was talked about was the Ontario deficit. And how it is growing exponentially fast. And when people talk to me about the cycles of real estate goes through buyers and sellers markets, balanced markets. We go through like any other market through cycles. And we've seen, I think, the biggest sellers market in the history recently. And It's not uncommon, I think, and maybe, I don't know if you want to interject yet as I keep going, but after seeing such a big upswing, you can see like a downswing. But that doesn't even matter. But what scares me is I tell people that I believe real estate is a fantastic long-term investment because it's got a great history. And I think up until recently, it's about a 3% growth year after year, right? Does that sound about right? Yeah. And that's kind of low because even when I look at the numbers, when that's on Canada wide, and that includes the hurting markets and the great ones, right? Because there's markets that are depreciating every year in Canada, right? Because they're just, I don't know about depreciating, but you go out east and you can, I have a client right now buying a property, 40 acres on the ocean, 3,000 square foot home, $300,000, right? Like it's crazy. In-law and like 7 bedrooms and in a nice house, not even like it's an old one. But real estate tends to appreciate over time. But you see down dips. And what scares me, because people say to me, I get it from time to time, when's a good time to buy? When's the market going to go down? And I'm like, timing the market, if people could do this, like, good for you. But it's got a history of going from down here to up here, and it's making its way there. If you want to catch the dip, good luck. But what scares me is what could cause a big dip, if you want to call it a crash or a bubble, is if our economy falls apart. And how I see this, me being just a realtor guy, grew up on a farm in Wainfleet, but if our deficit gets so big that we can't manage it anymore, that could cause big problems. Is this a good or bad assumption? I don't even want to say good. Accurate.
I don't know if it's accurate.
Okay, good.
Or not.
Okay. So my fear is our deficit is getting too big. We can't handle it.
I mean, that's a good fear. That's legit. But what effect is it going to have at the end of the day? I don't know.
I don't know either.
So this came up when you and I were talking, and I didn't fact check this stuff, but I was...
That's fine. I want to check.
There's a debt calculator, I think, for Ontario.
Okay.
Just Google Ontario debt calculator.
Interesting.
So when you and I were talking, I said, did you know that the state of Louisiana issued a state of emergency over their debt levels?
Oh, wow. Look at this. This is a rolling clock. Okay, this is interesting.
And when they issued their...
The state of Indiana, sorry.
Louisiana, all the way south.
Okay, down there.
Deep south.
Yeah.
French history.
Interesting.
So it's very relevant to us.
Okay.
French.
Yeah. Interesting.
They issued a state of emergency because of how much debt they had. And then when you compared it to Ontario, their debt per capita, I think, is like 1/5 of what ours is. So our debt per capita right now, Joe's got the calculator on, is $24,000 per person right now.
24,247. Yeah.
24,247 is what each one of us owes. I got 3 kids, so I owe $100,000.
$100,000
because those kids aren't paying anything.
No.
I mean, they're just mooches.
Right.
I pay for everything.
Yeah.
No jobs. You no kids. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm okay right now.
For you.
So I have a kid. I'm just contributing another $25,000 in debt.
It should be divided by population
right.
to get to that. And so Louisiana was like 1/5 of ours. They declare a state of emergency to dig themselves out of their debt. In Ontario, we're like, oh, heck yeah. Boom, let's get some more debt. Love that debt. Let's consume more debt.
Okay, my math isn't good here. What is this Ontario debt right now? 349. Is that billion?
It should.
These numbers are too big.
That's million. That's billion.
$349 billion. Almost 349.5. Need a little more splash?
No,
not yet.
I'm good. Okay. Let's keep this coherent.
Yeah. So and
so I guess the question is, what happens when it all hits the fan?
Okay, let me ask a couple questions.
Sure.
How deep can we go? Like,
so deep.
We can go deeper than this?
In theory.
Oh, okay, so I have to understand some of this because I don't quite understand. Ontario is in the hole, $350 billion. But we have, when I say we, as a province, we have assets. So this is not like our, I don't even know if it's what you call it, not zero sum, but I don't even know. This is not contributing any of the assets to it. This is how much we owe.
It's loans, strictly loans. So it's not factoring roads or power plants or the rest of it to say like our net, because you're not selling.
That's the word.
You can't sell our roads.
Okay. Now, do we have any idea if what we could sell, what we would come, like let's say we decided to have, what is it called, bankruptcy sale? Would we be over 350? We can't sell.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely more assets.
Okay, so we have more assets than debt.
Yeah.
Okay, so this just took a little bit of a load off my shoulders. But we're definitely spending more than we're making.
Right.
This is a problem.
That's the issue. So in the history of taxes, you collect the money, you spend the money. That's kind of keep it at zero. Or you can be like Finland, I believe, who has a big surplus, and they earn money on that, and then their citizens, they make $14,000 per person. I'm just making numbers up here. They might not be exact.
Yeah.
But if you make money per person, and then they invest that back in education and the rest of it, where we're borrowing, and our biggest or second biggest expense item in our budget is interest. So when we talk about education and healthcare not getting funded enough, they could double healthcare funding if we didn't pay the interest. So if we could have run a balanced budget forever, we could double healthcare today.
Right. Okay, so
we have enough assets.
Okay, this is good.
That it's good, but it's a government world, so it's not like my house is worth more than my loan, so there's equity, because you can't sell our province.
Right.
I mean, maybe Trump would buy
it. Probably.
But I don't know if that's good or bad.
I don't know either.
I kind of like being Canadian.
Okay, so to peel this down to as basic as it gets, right now, Ontario is spending more than they're making.
Yes.
And this is not good.
In my opinion, yes.
Taxes, when like you said, it's when they first started, you collect some tax and then you spend some money.
Yep.
So now they're spending money and then collecting a little bit of tax. So ways to fix it is make our taxes higher.
Yep. Or
spend less.
Correct.
So we're really heavily taxed.
Right. So the question is, can we go up from 54.54% any higher?
No.
You're already taking over half. So that leaves you with spending less.
So we have to look at spending less. Well, okay, we're talking some theory stuff here.
Absolutely.
So are you familiar, like myself, I'm not. Like, what are we spending so much? What, interest is the second biggest expense we have?
I believe.
Ish.
It's close.
It's a high.
Top three, for sure. Top three.
And what are some of the other ones?
Healthcare.
Yeah, healthcare.
Education.
Healthcare, education. So healthcare gets hit, and education gets hit, but they're still spending too much. Like I hear about, like hospital jobs getting cut back, and they're underfunded, and wait times are high.
Yep. So it's a double-edged sword, right? Like people can play. I tripped and fell at baseball, and I cut my knee, and I went to the hospital, and I had to wait 4 hours to get it stitched up. But it was free.
Right.
But in users' opinion, they want it to be within, instantaneous. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But then nobody wants to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we can have one doctor per citizen. Right? If you were willing to pay $300,000 in taxes, you could have your own personal doctor.
Right.
But it's not reasonable.
Right.
So we have to deal with what we have in the realm of possibilities. So it's where the current government, maybe not the best leader, but they are looking at cutting where they can to make ends meet. And I'm not going to weigh in on whether they're cutting in the right places or not, but
right. Well,
we're tapped out on the revenue side, in my opinion.
When you're taxing somebody income tax at 53%, up to 53%, and that's not the only tax getting paid.
Right. So the other areas, I guess, are look for people who aren't paying taxes. The whole underground economy,
right,
is a big chunk. Or people with the offshore money, or the people who are cheating. So those areas, but I don't think raising the taxes works.
So okay.
So administering the taxes could bring in more money.
So one of the things that they did recently is cannabis. Yep. They made it legal, or whatever the term is. Now it's taxable. I don't even know if it's legal or not or what.
It's legal.
It's legal?
It's legal.
Right. So they're collecting taxes on this now, which I think is good. I don't know how you want to weigh in on this or not. I think cannabis, I personally think that more things should be legal than illegal. Because when it's illegal, there's no taxes collected on it. The underground community is making money off of it. And even when it's legal, that's still going to happen anyway. But at least when you legalize it, they're making some money off of it. And I don't know what the repercussions are. Like some people say when it's legal, usage goes up. I don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea. I don't know if you know. I don't know. Fact check on that.
I don't know any facts. I would assume if it's legal, usage would go up. There are people who wouldn't use it when it's illegal or procure it when it's illegal, but they would use it. I can't imagine it's going to go up. And there's statistically relevant numbers.
And there's people that when it's illegal, it's more appealing and would use it. Right? So it's tough to say. I don't know.
Yeah. I agree with legalizing. In this case, if it's not a significant harm, it's not, as far as I know, any worse than alcohol.
Right.
Which is very good alcohol.
Yeah. Well, there's health benefits to cannabis, to alcohol, but there's bad things for abusing them, like most things.
Absolutely. Anything you abuse is going to be... You drink too much grapefruit juice, so it's not going to be good for you.
Right.
But it's not the tax revenue. So the tax revenue is good, but it's not amounting to a huge amount of money. It's not going to solve our problem. The regulation's probably good. People know what they're getting. I hear a lot about dosage, so people, can
monitor what their
there's
THC
no additives. I don't know if there's fentanyl in res marijuana sticks.
Right.
Not, but it's safer, but it's taxed, so that's great. But it's a small drop in the bucket, I think.
It is, Even cannabis
They announced the stats, and it's like they made, I don't know if it was $500 million in tax.
And that's a drop in the bucket?
Federally.
Well, I guess.
Well, the federal deficit's like $30 billion. So what does $500 million do? And that's the annual. Sorry, that's the annual. This is only provincial debt you're looking at. You're not adding on our federal portion of what we owe.
How did we get in such a crazy hole?
Every single one of the governments, regardless of political affiliation, has dug it deeper because it's appealing to people. Free stuff is appealing to people.
Yeah.
Right? So the more money you're willing to give out, the more votes you're going to get. So every government, regardless of what they believe in, is on that boat. In the past, governments have reduced the taxes because that's what their supporters wanted. But that's not paying back the deficit. Like, we need to fix the hole. So the taxes are high, but all right, let's acknowledge they're high. Like, everybody's got to kind of dig in here and go, if we wanted to solve it, which we don't. Nobody has the appetite to solve this problem. And say, all right, I'm good with these high taxes, and we're going to cut back on spending and live with this pain. And, public sector wages are going to have to get rolled back.
Wow.
I'm just saying, everybody digs in.
Yeah.
We get out of the hole, and we're good. Nobody's willing.
Right.
Because it's all about me.
But this can't keep going.
Right, so that's where we started.
Yeah.
Where does it end?
Yeah.
And that's a good question. That Ontario debt rating got reduced. So our debt is graded by like Standards & Poor's and Moody's. And 2 years ago, I think
I don't even know what that is.
They rate bonds. So you have bonds that are given like a AAA standard.
Gotcha.
Very good, AAA. You don't even get that in school. That's how good it is. You get down to the B level, bonds aren't as good. So which means they have a higher probability of going bad. Not necessarily going to, but a higher probability.
Right.
So Ontario's debt level got downgraded a couple of years ago by one level.
From AAA to AA?
No, I don't even know how far it was. It was the news was it got downgraded.
Right.
So that's a bad sign. That means that investors don't believe that Ontario will have the ability to pay it back in the future by a small portion. I mean, we're still not anywhere where it's like, oh, we're at risk. We're not. I think it was Iceland, where they actually just dipped into everybody's bank account and took a percentage of it and like, oh, we got to pay off this loan. So
really?
You got money in the bank. We're taking 25% of every bank account. Thank you very much.
That happened?
I believe so.
Okay.
I got a lot of
loose space facts.
Yeah, I read things and then I forget about them because I get into real life. So I think it was Iceland though. Could have been Green. No, Iceland. I'm sticking with Iceland.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So there's trouble there. I mean, the city of Detroit basically went bankrupt.
Right.
So that would be the best example of what could happen when a city goes under.
So that's the most recent one. So I'm not even familiar with it. I'm not shocked because they really got hit.
Absolutely, with the auto industry.
Okay,
but it seems like they've come out of it. I mean, I've talked to politicians. They're like, debt's fake. Who cares?
That's fake.
Debt's fake. We're never going to pay this money back, so what do we care?
Wow.
That's what a politician told me. We're never going to pay the money back, so what do we care? Which...
Okay, so...
Seems true. We're not. We don't have the money to pay it back, so we're not.
Okay, so maybe this is a good question now. Who do we owe this money to?
It is a good question.
We don't know.
I'm sure the government has an idea. The province of Ontario specifically issues bonds. So, the Ontario savings bonds and stuff like that. Like way back in the day, your grandma would give you a $50 savings bond for your birthday, for your education, kind of thing. So that's the government issuing this debt to its own citizens.
Right.
Foreign countries hold a lot of our debt. I believe China holds a lot of our debt.
I've heard that before.
And I think a lot of it would be there. Like if you have a trade deficit with a country, they could be holding your debt. So I don't know, like if China just forecloses on Ontario, and then
if we're not making payments,
we become a state of China, not even with
that'd
the
be
Trump
crazy.
Americans. That's not
okay. Little Trump thing here. Is Trump, from what I understand, because clearly I don't follow stuff too well. Is Trump trying to clean up America's debt like this?
It seems like it to me.
Yeah.
He's getting money from everywhere he can. He's not very popular, and he says a lot of stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Americans in financial security go, he seems to be doing a lot of things to help them.
Business style, not government style.
Business style. So adding tariffs on, saying your products are too cheap coming out of whatever country. I think the war with China right now. And so we're going to tax it this amount and help our own industries out. Or he's fighting with us over a whole lot of stuff. Like, you're bringing in this too cheap, and we want to have this local, and yada, yada.
Right.
But then he's been hitting Americans with a lot of tax that live abroad as well. Because he doesn't care if he makes them upset. And so he's gone after Google and other countries that have headquarters in Ireland, in other countries, and they just shift all their income offshore. And so a lot of the commentary we hear about rich people not paying tax and companies not paying tax are really based on the American system, because they do it really well. And so Google shifts, Google makes $20 billion and they shift $18 billion of profit offshore to Ireland. They pay no tax.
Right.
I mean, people could say that Trump's done that in his own history too. He's never paid any tax, but real estate investments is a little bit different. Right. So he's gone after all these foreign companies and said, okay, you're giving us X% of this money. And we have it locally with a bunch of our clients, because anyone who's an American citizen, if they own a company in Canada, never lived in the States in their life, so their parents were American,
right,
or whatever, they moved to Canada, had a kid's automatically granted American citizenship, never a big deal. Right. But American taxes are different from Canadian, without trying to bore these people too much. They have to pay tax on their worldwide income, whether they've ever lived in the States or not.
Really?
In Canada, as soon as you move out of Canada to another country, you no longer have to pay here. So I think the Americans are one of the only countries in the world that base it based on citizenship rather than residency.
Interesting.
So if you own a company in Welland, Ontario, Waynflete, Ontario. You own a company in Waynflete, Ontario. December 2017, Trump came in and said, you effectively owe us 25% of your retained earnings. And retained earnings are all the money your company's made that hasn't paid out to you over the years. So say you've been really good investing your money and holding it back and not spending it, and you've got $2 million of retained earnings. Trump said, okay, you owe us $500,000.
Because
you're American and you have a foreign company.
Wow.
Even though you've never lived in the United States, he did that.
Wow.
Even though you've never lived in the United States, you don't use any of our services,
but you have resident. You're resident.
No, you're resident of Canada.
Or not resident. Citizen.
Non-resident. Sorry. You're a citizen. You still hold a U.S. passport. US $500,000. Not only that, we will take, and I can't remember what the percentage is, 15% of all your future earnings paid over to us. I think it's about 15%.
So people are like, okay, I'm not American anymore.
Right, but to be not American, the rules are you have to get caught up, all your tax filings up to date.
Oh,
so
wow.
you still have to pay these taxes, and then you can renounce your citizenship, but you have to pay an exit tax based on everything you own at the time. So if the value of your business is $4 million, you have to pay an exit tax of, I don't know what the percentage is, but X amount of dollars to say, I want to not be American anymore.
He did this?
Yep.
I didn't even hear this.
No, that's not really in the news. It's something we deal with, and we see people's pain dealing with this, but he's sticking it to everybody to get more money. So your question was, is he trying to help the Americans dig out of this hole? I think absolutely. I think he's a jerk. I think he's a total jerk the way he treats people in his tweets. But if you want to talk about fixing deficit,
right,
he's making strides to do it, and he's finally using the leverage that the Americans have.
Right.
To think that the Americans don't have leverage over these other countries would be silly. And everybody
100%.
else has just let it go, and he's just like, yeah, screw you. I do what I want.
Wow. So, from our angle, he's making strides to reducing their federal debt.
Right.
It's just hardcore.
Sticking it to, and he's sticking it to people that really aren't gonna. They don't have any sway. I mean, they're foreigners.
So he's gonna have a hard time getting reelected if he runs again.
I don't think so. The people he's affecting aren't everyday people in the U.S. He's affecting big companies that deal foreign,
right,
and making them bring their profits back and pay their share of tax. He's affecting foreign companies, foreign governments to bring more jobs back. His issue on getting reelected is he's such a jerk.
Right.
That's his biggest issue. If he took Obama's style and charisma and applied that to his policy, they could probably make it all work.
Yeah.
I mean, he's reeled back on a lot of the BS he said about cutting this off and building this and doing that. Right. And
did the wall ever happen? Was that a joke?
No, they're kind of still working on it. But from everything, you ever read the Dilbert comics?
No.
Scott Adams is the Dilbert comic guy. He did a book. You don't have to write this down. You're not going to follow up on it.
I might.
He had a book on why Trump is such a genius in his election campaign.
Right.
And it's an interesting take on it. And he's like, so you say these ridiculous things and get people thinking about it, but he was never talking about a wall. He's talking about immigration. And that's his way of bringing up the topic of immigration.
Right.
You make this huge, ridiculous example, and then you backtrack to where, okay, we're not going to build a wall and spend this much money, but we're going to do whatever. And then people can tolerate that. So, in our deficits part of you, if they came back and said, we're going to rail back all public sector wages by 80%, and there'd be a huge uproar, and then it ends up only being a 20% rollback.
Right.
You're so much better. And then people can tolerate that small amount because they were expecting the big amount.
It's the opposite of under promise, over deliver. Kind of.
Absolutely. and so Scott Adams gives him credit for being a genius in doing this.
Right.
I think where the rest of us think that the guy's just a bumbling fool and is getting lucky and getting into it. And I don't know who's right. I kind of lean towards bumbling fool who's just getting lucky, but it's an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he writes comics that are fun to read.
I'll have to take a look.
For anyone who works in an office. So to go back to your original question of what happens to Ontario when our debt gets so big, does the economy collapse and fall apart? I mean, we have human beings living here, producing products, and selling them across the world. So I don't think it can collapse and go to zero. We're not going to
not go to zero.
But
we can certainly.
But I don't know what happens when we tap out of debt. And
it's scary that we're not. Okay, so.
But the scary part is most people aren't talking about it or concerned about it.
Yeah.
That's the part that scares me.
Yeah. Well, what made me feel better but also scares me is that our assets are greater than our debts because.
But they're not sellable. So. The previous government started selling Hydro One. Whether you agree that's right or wrong, and then they They bring the money from the sale into income and go, look, we didn't have that big of a deficit because we sold off an asset. Well, now we can't make money from it going forward.
Yeah.
So where are we? So if you sell the LCBO and Hydro One and any stake we have in anything, then we're just paying rent to everybody.
Right.
Forever. So we don't have debt anymore, but we have rent payments. So Hydro One produces money right now. The LCBO produces money. You're going to swap one for the other if we sell our assets.
So let's comment on some ways to improve.
The ways I have to improve aren't popular with most of society.
I don't know.
I'm in a service sector like you are, Joe, so I can't go pissing people off left and right. But
okay. I don't know how you want to word it or not, because I don't want to piss off anybody either. But
I've seen your burger reviews. You're not afraid.
I think honest is good, but this is something that not everybody is willing to do. But okay, maybe I'll start with some of my stuff. So we started off with, can we make more money or can we save what we're spending?
Right.
So we can't make it. We can't. Well, I don't like looking at taxing more.
Right.
So you can. I don't know if you can look at other ways to make money without taxing, but let's not get into that because that's a difficult thing. But if we look at where we can save, so like we said, the top things, maybe we don't start there. Maybe that's unpopular, but we said education, healthcare, interest would be nice to reduce down, but we can't do that without balancing out. Is there things lower that you can look at? Like, I don't even know. Like, I thought legalizing cannabis and $500 million or whatever, I thought that would be great.
It is great.
It's a drop,
but it's a drop in the bucket.
It's a drop.
I mean, to fix the problem,
You got to spend less on some things.
You got to pick some areas. The biggest issue, I think, is our infrastructure's crumbling. Our bridges, our roads,
right?
Our wastewater, our water treatment, like that stuff you can't. I mean, the problem is if you make what I see is you make every cut, people get mad. Yeah. Every single cut. So the one that comes to mind that really irks me was when the Ford government first scrapped the cap and trade program, which is the environmental side in Ontario only.
Yeah, I don't even know what this is.
All right, cap and trade. They gave every manufacturer a cap on how many emissions they were allowed to emit, and if they were going to exceed that, you could trade your limit with somebody else. So if somebody else was saving on their emissions, they could sell off some of their limit to you.
Okay, let's do an example so I can follow this.
If everybody's allowed 100 emissions, and company A is going to need 200 to produce their widgets and accounting widgets.
Yeah,
I don't know. CO2 is the, and company B is only going to use 25 of their emission limit. They could sell their 75 excess over to company A.
Okay.
So they were going to cap the limit and they were going to allow you to trade it.
Okay.
And then they were going to tax it. Big tax revenue. Liberal government put it in. Ford came in, said, I don't like it. Took it out.
Mm-hmm.
But they were going to use the money from it, a big chunk of it, for infrastructure for schools. So he came in and he scrapped it. And so every school board was going to have a 5% reduction in infrastructure budget. And I mean, we both live our lives on Facebook. You post, I creep. But the comments were like, okay, now the kids aren't going to have clean drinking water. We're not going to have furnaces. Our kids are going to be freezing in the classroom.
Right.
But you're only reducing 5% of the budget. So the Toronto School Board's budget was like $250 million for infrastructure. I tend to think if they had problems with drinking water and furnaces, if they only had $225 million out of $250 million, or whatever the numbers are, they could fix those.
Right.
Right? But they're not going to do the excess. And so if you look specifically in Niagara and what they've spent their money on over the last every year they spend $5 million on football fields, grandstands, and lights. They're doing about 4 schools a year, putting in AstroTurf and lights. So the question is, do we need lights for our high school football fields?
Right.
Or AstroTurf or grandstands or the rest of it? Or are we okay giving that up? Because they were doing that under the original budget. They don't even need the cap and trade money to do that. Right. So clearly our schools are in such great shape if we're spending $5 million on fields. We don't need to worry about
lights for the
So I don't know, when I went to high school, I don't know about you. You went to Lakeshore, right?
Yeah.
I went to Centennial.
Yeah.
All our football games were at 3:00.
Yeah.
There was one game a season under the lights, and they played it in St. Catharines.
Yeah, and we played it in Plymouth Park. Yeah.
Right. So do we need lights at
Not
Centennial, at
No.
E.L. Crosley?
No.
The AstroTurf part of it, I don't know. They say there's savings to be had because you don't have to seed the field and cut the field.
Yeah.
Maybe, sure. But do you need lights? Like,
Yeah,
you don't need any of it, to be honest.
Right.
So are we really that worried about this money that Ford took away for the infrastructure? Like, is the world going to end? And,
right.
But the reaction from people is the world's going to end. Our kids are now going to have to suffer because of this.
Right.
And so if that cut can't get through, what cuts can?
Yeah. It's tough.
And so, I mean, I love teachers.
Yeah.
I think they provide a service to children. The good teachers
100%.
are phenomenal.
100%.
The bad teachers are unfortunately protected.
Yeah.
But teachers' wages today, so back, my impression when I was going through school was you went to work public service for job security, primarily, and lifestyle.
Right.
And you sacrificed on the income side of it for those other benefits. And you get the pension and the benefits and yada yada. But now, public sector wages are so much ahead of private sector wages.
They are. Yeah.
They're way ahead.
Yeah.
So you're not sacrificing anything. You're getting the best of every world to work for the government.
Yeah.
And so I had a teacher post on Facebook the other day about how they're underpaid, et cetera, et cetera.
Wow.
And so I decided to post some statistics for them.
Oh, wow. That
And
didn't go so well.
They had, a teacher works 7 hours a day times, 200 days a year or whatever the numbers were.
Right.
And I'm not going to dispute how many hours a day a teacher works. That's fine because the numbers are good using their number, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah.
And based on what the average teacher makes in Ontario and those hours worked, they were making $65 an hour at the average wage.
Wow.
The high-end earners are at 70, and that's assuming 7 to 7.5 hours a day are the average, which they don't have to, and that, I guess, would include their lunch and everything, which most people don't get a paid lunch.
Yeah. Do you get a paid lunch?
I don't get a paid lunch.
Neither
no.
do I.
No,
okay,
absolutely.
go ahead.
So at $70 an hour. So then Statistics Canada has a great website where you can just drive down on a ton of different information.
Right.
$70 an hour puts you in the top 4% of wage earners in Canada.
Canada.
So that basically means a teacher is in the top 4% of wage earners on an hourly basis because they don't work as many hours as most people,
Right.
but are complaining about how much money they're making.
Top 4% is a tough life.
Top 4, right? Like
Tough life up there.
We rage against the top 1.
Yeah.
The U.S. were protesting against the top 1 for years, but let's call it the top 10 are doing pretty good.
Right.
Teachers are in the top 10, in the top 5.
Top 5. Yeah.
So if you want to look at, we don't have enough money for infrastructure, we don't have enough money for supplies, we don't have money because the wages
Right.
are expensive.
Right.
And the people can debate whether that's money well spent or not. But public sector wages are really high these days.
Yeah, they are high. Very high.
And so if you wanted to save the deficit, you got to look at wages. And I think the teachers are in a union battle for higher wages right now.
Right.
I don't think their contract's up for another year, but I think they're already negotiating.
Right.
Like,
They started already. Yeah, that's good.
and the state of California got into similar trouble with the firefighters when California went bankrupt 5-10 years ago. And basically every firefighter's union agreement, so every county had a different union agreement, and they always base it, kind of like hockey, off the last contract. Well, the last contract, they got a 4% raise, so we want a 4.5%, and they kept basing it off that, and then everybody leapfrogs over, like the highest paid, the winger available right now is getting $6 million, and I'm better than him, so I should get 6.5, and the next guy comes out, I'm better than him, I should get 7.
Right.
Next thing you know, NHL wages are $13 million a guy. 15 years ago, the top guys are making $5.5 million.
Yeah.
Is it sustainable?
No.
So what do we do?
I know. It's crazy.
But you try being a politician and bring that up.
Being a politician is not an easy job.
Nope. Well,
because if you want to be popular, you're not being Trump and trying to correct it.
Right. So it's easier to bury your head in the sand and say, let's just let the
but
debt grow.
that's no good. It's no good.
It'll get past me. It's the next guy's problem.
Yeah, it can't.
I'll get my pension.
Yeah, I'm okay. But it won't be okay. Like, if it's exponentially our debt, Ontario debt, growing, we're looking at some problems maybe in our lifetime.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking our kids or grandkids.
Right.
We're talking our direct lifetime. It's a little bit scary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why most people don't think about it.
So one of the first things that comes to my mind about how to correct it, and where we've got into a little bit specifics, is we've touched on, I think it's a little bit of education. So I think there's a little bit here.
Yep. Most people don't pay attention to any of this because it's easier not to.
Yeah, it's easier and it's a difficult thing. So I don't even know how that gets done or not. I don't know who's responsible for that or not. But what are you jotting there? Yeah, go ahead. I just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, you take a break and I'll just keep talking. This is where I get a little monologue. So as Jeff takes a little break, this is something I'll comment on here. What I was saying here is this is, in my opinion, a big problem. Ontario's deficit growing exponentially fast from everything that I've heard, and it's a little bit scary. And what is the solution or not? I don't know. We've been throwing around some stuff, but like I was saying, first thing is education. And I think there's a lot of fake news out there. I think there's a lot of real news out there. But I think that gaining on the real news and educating and understanding. Now, does this affect everybody in Ontario? 100%. Does everybody in Ontario care about it? No, not a chance. But I think that if more people were aware, more people were concerned, and more people, once you're educated on it, then you can decide on how to go about it. But I think that with politics and even with this, there's a lot of people coming to conclusions without being educated. And I think that's when bad decisions are made. That's part of my job is just educating people and giving them all their options. And I think that's important on the micro level up to the macro. So this is why personally I like reviewing this. I didn't even know this website existed where we can review this. I'm not surprised it's there. But I think that one of the things is just understanding it before coming to solutions. I'm doing monologue here. What I was going over was we started pretty quickly in like solutions or talking about different options, but I think that it begins with, like I was mentioning, is just educating and people to understand it better. And this is anybody listening. I'm sure there's people learning. I'm learning right now because I think that a lot of people, one of the problems that people have, not just with this but other things, is jumping to conclusions, or not even just coming to conclusions without all the data. Like me, that's why off of the camera here is a ton of paperwork when I'm data driven when pricing a house, the most important thing. And I think having data as much as possible before making a decision is a great way to make a decision. And I think a lot of people today make a lot of decisions without having a lot of data.
Absolutely. I was watching Anzi Cesari's new Netflix special.
I don't. Who is that? Borat?
No, he's not Borat. He was on Parks and Recreation.
Okay.
And he's got a whole bunch of comedian Netflix specials. Mm-hmm. And he does a skit right in the beginning of it. And he asks everybody who saw the recent scandal at Pizza Hut where the employee made the pepperoni into a swastika. And then he takes a poll of the crowd that says it was a fluke and it wasn't really a swastika and the people are too sensitive, or this employee should be fired, put in jail, or whatever. And he takes a poll of the crowd. They cheer, kind of weak on either side, and part of the crowd doesn't cheer at all. And then he says, everybody who cheered on either side, you are the problem. Because that never happened. That story didn't exist. I just made it up right now. but you had to weigh in your opinion so bad that you thought that guy should be fired,
right,
and persecuted, or you thought, no, it's a fluke and we should be able to put whatever symbol we want on whatever, that it should be okay.
Right.
But you're all weighing in on your opinion without it ever being a real thing.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that's interesting. Not really a comedy skit thing, but totally. And that's the same thing here. Like, the more educated people are, we can have an intelligent discussion, but there's so much fake news being propagated. Even I saw on Facebook a while ago, somebody posted how Andrew Scheer is trying to take away CPP.
Andrew Scheer is...
He's the conservative guy running for prime minister.
Okay.
So you got Trudeau, Scheer, other parties, etc. But he's the conservative leader. So he's trying to take away people's CPP in the future, and don't let him take your money.
Wow.
But what he's proposing is rolling back those CPP changes. So like we talked about earlier, how your CPP is going to cost you $5,500 now, it's going to cost you $10,000 in 4 years. He's just saying, wait, I don't want to take money out of Joe's pocket today. Joe, you should save for your own retirement. We're going to keep CPP the way it is today. Mm-hmm. But we're not going to take any more money from you. Mm-hmm. So he's not talking about taking money from anybody, because it's your money either way. He's just saying, I'm going to leave more in your pocket today. But the way it gets put out on Facebook is like, hey, you're contributing to CPP, and he's not going to let you collect at the end of the day because he's an evil monster.
Right.
And it doesn't give us a chance to get our facts straight to make intelligent decisions, because I don't personally know what the right solution is to anything. If people said, yeah, I'd rather the government take my money and invest it on my behalf, then hey, let's go that way.
Right.
If they'd rather say, hey, you know what, I'd rather invest in myself, then let's go that way.
Right.
But the problem is we can never come to consensus because there's not enough information out there.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing here. Like, public sector wages might be fine. Let's come up with another solution. But if we want to dig out of the debt, if we decide as a society we're not cool with this, then everybody kind of needs to dig in, right? Yeah. You can't just say, oh, there's somebody who is richer than I am and they should foot the bill.
Right.
Those rich people are getting away with everything, and let's stick it to the man.
Right.
Meanwhile, the people saying that are the ones not paying any tax and doing underground work and the rest of it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, not paying income tax and whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't pay any income tax, but I want the best roads and the best healthcare and the best education ever.
Yeah.
And I'm, personally, I'm more than happy for teachers to get paid what they get paid, and everyone else. But we have to just accept our fate.
Yeah.
Right. Like, if crime gets too high, you hire more police. If you have a way to fix that, you can have less police. But how you decide as a society how to manage that, and that's the problem. We can't come to consensus, and we can't get on the same page. Every political party is just putting out BS about the other one and skewing the facts.
Yeah.
The liberals say the conservatives are doing this, which is a total lie. The conservatives say the liberals are doing this, which is a total lie. They're all criminals.
Oh man.
I gotta tell you, I haven't watched your podcast with Leanna yet, but I do need to.
With Leanna?
Leanna.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what she had to say on all this stuff.
Well, we didn't really get into this. We talked about some other things, but we talked more regional than we didn't go Ontario style. But yeah, when you
Makes
take
sense.
a listen, yeah.
Scary. Yeah, but that's scary.
It is scary.
I've got a client, like we talked about the U.S. taxes being so expensive right now. I have one client whose kids are U.S., so they're going to have this filing burden in the future. You Americans living in Canada, even though they never lived in the States, have to file a U.S. tax return every year and disclose all their bank accounts that have anything more than $10,000 in them.
Wow.
Et cetera. And it's really expensive to file every year.
Right.
So it's a big burden for these kids to have. And I'm like, you should renounce now. They're like 7 years old. And he's like, no, like the way Ontario looks right now, like I need an exit strategy. When this goes down, I want my kids to be able to get out of this country and go somewhere.
Right.
It's like, wow, okay.
It's scary. The people that have more control over this are clearly aware of what's going on.
Yeah, or maybe they're just smarter than us and they got a better plan.
Yeah, clearly. It's tough. I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. I don't know. I'd love to have on here like an economist of some sort that I don't even know that might have even more insight, because to me it's scary. That's what it is.
You know what would be amazing? A balanced budget with no debt. where we keep our money, all the tax money collected goes back in our system.
Right.
Not, being beholden to potentially another government or...
Okay, the number seems really high. But is there a way that okay, when I think of the extreme way out, right? Without selling anything. Extreme. And I'm not saying this is right, but I'm saying if we wanted to get to zero tomorrow, if we stop paying teachers, doctors, nurses, everything, for how long? And I'm not saying we do that. I'm just, you got to look at, because we talk about if you cut them back.
Right.
Well, that's going to take longer than if you pay them zero. And I'm not saying do that, but I'm saying how do we figure out our extremes of how quickly could we get out of this? Is it even possible if we stop spending everything that we were out of this in 3 years? Or is that, I don't even know how much Ontario spends per year and makes. I have no idea. I've always found this interesting how it's... you might be able to find this?
Yeah, we can find out what the Ontario budget is. I don't know what the total...
Here, I'll help you. There you go. Because this is what I've always found challenging with politics, is not being able to find all the information, whether that's on purpose or not. I've talked to people where I've thought it would be interesting if all the taxpayer money, if the bank accounts of the government were transparent. I don't know if that would be good or not. Do you think that would be good? Because it's not, is it? We can't trace where our money goes. Exactly. Can you? You're saying maybe?
They might.
Yeah?
They might issue statements.
So anybody listening, you're looking up some stuff here. Doing some Googlings.
Yeah, just trying to find out what the total revenue is for Ontario.
Yeah, I have no idea. I've never seen this stuff. I've never seen it for Wainfleet. I've never seen it for Niagara. I've never seen it for Ontario.
No, the city's financial statements are available.
They're available, but it's not like I've ever
been educated. They're on their websites.
Yeah, I don't know.
So you haven't been educated on them. I've looked them up in the past because it's what I do. So I like to know where money's coming in and going out. And they send it out in summary with your property taxes. Yeah. So here's your property tax summary, and X amount goes to education, and X amount to fire services and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Total revenue for Ontario was $150 billion.
Revenue.
Interesting. And then we're losing $6 billion on that 150. So a lot of the experts say, well, we're it's at 3%. 3% of our total revenue is what we're losing every year. Right. Is that a big loss? And in all account, it isn't, except when you do it this year, next year, next year, right? So then it becomes a big deal, but they can't dig out of it. That's the problem. And that's where they're looking to sell off assets, sell off Hydro One.
Selling assets doesn't sound like a good solution.
Generally, it's not. Look at the 407. How much money the 407's worth. If we would have never sold that, it would have been a great asset for Ontario to have.
We're putting a Band-Aid on a hole in a bucket.
Yeah.
It's not a solution.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To look at what SNC Lavalin sold their 7% stake in the 407 for, the money's insane.
Really?
It was like $8 billion or something.
Really?
And that's why our fees for the 407 are so high.
But then there's also, I've heard some schools of thought where less government intervention is better. So I don't know if we're getting away from numbers or not. But when the 407, some theories are when it's privately managed, it's run better than when it's publicly managed. That you run into less problems like this because private companies don't have an endless bucket of money to dip into. So private sector tends to run more efficient than public. So the benefit of that is when the government's not managing it, they're not mismanaging it.
Absolutely, and that's where you look at like Miller Paving or whatever is doing all the maintenance on the highways down here, right? Like you're always seeing their trucks versus the government doing it themselves. And so we contracted out to the cheapest bidder to take care of this, and then we don't have to.
I'd like to think best value, not cheapest, but maybe it is the cheapest.
Yeah, so imagine NASA builds the rocket to go to the moon, and every single piece on that rocket was built by the cheapest bidder. Oh. Anyway. The best value. So the best value bidder, and Miller gets it because they can run it more efficiently than public sector. And you run into those wage issues and stuff that would, that we talked about. So I agree with that. But I don't know.
Yeah, big problems. Do you think we're like, okay, so I don't follow a lot of this stuff. It interests me, but I have a hard time with my day-to-day, how busy I am, and finding real news, right, to sift through it. So there's been a lot of talk with Ford, good and bad. But it seems like, from my perspective, that he's working towards making this number better. Is that a fair perspective?
It's a good question. It's tough to say because he picks weird things to pick on, and he'll be like, okay, we could save $100 million here, which again is another drop in the bucket. Right. So is it worth saving, or is it all these small cuts will finally add up to a big cut? Like, is the money being wasted where he's picking it being wasted?
Right.
So I think he's trying to get there, but he's not having the big discussions needed to right the ship. He doesn't seem willing to do those. Tim Hudak seemed on that path before a couple elections ago.
Right.
But I don't know if Doug Ford.
Tim is now...
He's the president of the Realty Association.
Yeah. Not Rico, I think it's...
Oreo.
Oreo. Yeah, Oreo. Yeah, Oreo. Yeah. I actually reached out to him to see if he wanted to do a podcast. He messaged me back, but he hasn't confirmed if he would or not. I think I would.
He's supposed to be a good guy. I've never met him.
I've never met him before. I've met his dad before. He was a principal and a football referee, but I've never met him before. I think it'd be interesting to have him on to see, because I'm sure he's got perspective on a ton of high-level stuff like this. He's been around.
And he was years ago in the political realm, so we were younger and I paid less attention. But he seemed, to me, more in tune with, hey, we got a big issue here and we need to solve it and we need to take drastic measures.
Yeah.
And then anytime you say drastic measures, people
don't
like it as much.
It's not popular.
And so then you don't get voted in.
Yeah.
Because it's a popularity contest. Like if every CEO in a private company was picked by the employees, where would you be? I mean,
that's interesting.
One CEO says, I'll give everybody $10 more per hour. And the other guy says, well, all we can afford is $1.50. They're probably going to vote the $10. And the company's going to go bankrupt.
Yeah, not looking out for shareholders.
And we're bankrupt.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So you can't just go with who's going to give you the most.
Yeah. Very interesting.
And most people bury their head in the sand and have no idea what's going on.
Because
So it's like, what can I get? And that's all I care about.
It's easier to bury your head in the sand when there's so much fake news, so much passion, and so much trouble on one. Like, it's scary. I don't like that route myself. What are you looking up there?
Oh, nothing. We're going to put some on the screen myself. Shameless self-promotion.
Oh, I love it. Get it up there. So, this was good. The Ontario deficit, I think we both agree that more tax revenue is not the answer. It's about finding where to save.
Yep.
I think that's very true too. I've always found it a little bit interesting how governments have a hard time making money too, but I don't know if that's something to get into, because like when I look at when governments are looking at how to make more money, it's tax, and I'm like, when businesses look at how making money, they think about how to sell more stuff, right? But I don't know, the government. You mentioned power, right? Like that's a government thing, but I don't even know. I don't even want to get into that because like power is crazy. I don't even understand any of that craziness. Do you?
No, I don't know where the money flows
crazy.
and how it all works.
Yeah.
But you're right, areas where they could make more money. I think Alberta has a government-run insurance rather than individual insurance agents and brokers and companies. So does the government branch out into more service offerings, and take away from the private sector?
Right.
That seems counterintuitive, but
right.
I don't know.
Okay, so I think we're good on that one. So maybe some other things we kind of talked about. You want a little top up with that?
No, I'm good.
Good.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
So we kind of talked about some misconceptions. I don't know about misconceptions or not, but any good tips? Like we've gone over, I think, a lot of the good stuff, CPP and RSPs and all that stuff. Students, like there's a student benefit of some sort, right?
Yeah, and it's changed recently.
Yeah.
You brought this one up early.
Yeah.
And we dodged it for a while. But you used to be able to take your tuition, the amount you paid, the actual amount you paid in tuition, and then you would get a credit for the number of months you were either full-time or part-time student, and that would offset your other living costs like books and stuff. Like a lot of time people will bring to us, here's my receipts for books. Okay, we don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're going to test my knowledge.
No, it's all right.
It's okay. The federal government, I think, eliminated the book credit. So the number of months doesn't matter. They'll only give you the amount you paid. In Ontario, scrapped it all together, I believe.
Right.
So the amount of credit you get for students is a lot less than it was before. We'll see if Ontario brings it back. So Ontario originally was scrapping the tuition credit and taking that tax savings, in theory, and providing free tuition for anybody whose family income was under $50,000.
Free tuition.
Free tuition. If your family income's under $50,000, you go to school for free.
To college or university?
Yep.
I have never heard of that.
Yeah, that was the previous government early in the Wynne era.
Mm-hmm.
A very interesting policy. I like it personally.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody should have access to education, whether it be government loan or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if your income is super low, then have it for free, improve your life.
Yeah.
Kind of. And so they were going to fund it by taking away the tuition credit from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it for students for the most part. You get a rent credit in Ontario. So if you're paying rent, now if you live in a student residence, you only get a $25 credit versus
a year, or
like you literally get $25 back on your taxes.
Okay, sure.
Because they assume that the government's already funded student residences to some portion, even though it's more expensive to live than a private house. So they don't give you anything there. Where if you get the normal rent credit, it's a lot more money coming back.
So what's the normal rent credit?
Tough calculation. It's income based.
What's the theory of it? Yeah.
It's income based. It's called the Trillium benefit in Ontario.
Okay, that's what I was going to say. I've heard something about Trillium or something.
Yeah, and it's based on your income, so they assume how much you're spending and give you back some of that money. And then if you have rent, it enhances it more. I think it's like, you're looking at like $100 a month, give or take, basically. Students, if they move to school and they also work, can take moving expenses, but otherwise moving expenses don't get you anything if they're just going to school. Because they would offset scholarship income, but scholarship income is currently tax-free, so you don't need to worry about their moving expenses. They're not a lot.
Gotcha.
Not a lot for students, and most students aren't making over the $12,000 basic credit anyway.
I think here's a good one that I've heard. Lottery winnings, income tax-free.
Yes.
In Ontario, Canada?
Canada. Casino, lottery, all of it. Unless you're a professional poker player.
Right. Professional gambler.
Yeah, gambler. You could be a blackjack player or whatever. Yeah. If that's your profession.
Yeah, I've read that before. So if you're time and time again proving that the luck is not in the other side and if the luck is on your side, you're considered professional gambler. And now that's an income. You can be taxed on that income.
Yeah.
As I understand it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's more like if you're a professional poker player and then you want to deduct your expenses. And I mean, you could figure out if someone's a professional if they're on the World Poker Tour or whatever.
Right.
They're professional. They're traveling. They're doing it.
Right.
The guy who goes and wins $1,000 on the weekend probably wouldn't be professional.
Yeah.
I mean, unless he doesn't have another job.
Right.
But you win $50 million in the lottery, that's your money.
Yeah.
In the U.S., opposite. It's all taxable.
All taxable, and if you're Canadian and you win in the States, they take off some tax, but then you can apply for a credit back or whatever.
That's basically a misconception.
Interesting. Look at this. I found one.
But I don't know. So they generally withhold 30%. You win the 50-50 at the Sabres game, $18,000. They're going to withhold $6,000.
Gotcha.
So then you got to work on getting it back. Now, all the U.S. real CPAs I talk to say you have to be able to show losses equivalent to what you won. So if you're a person who plays the slots or whatever, and you win on the slots, you might be able to go and get like your player's advantage printout. Seneca Casino would give you a listing. Yeah, you've lost $6,000 a year for the last 10 years. Okay, you won $60,000. You lost $60,000. You get all your tax back.
Right.
And that's the way it's supposed to work. Now, I've heard of people going to different tax preparers, and they'll get your money back.
Right.
And I don't know how.
Who knows what they're doing?
I'm just assuming they're lying about your losses, and the IRS isn't asking. But
right, that's
my understanding from the real CPAs down in the U.S. on what you need to prove.
Gotcha.
So, but if you won the lottery, if you won $20 million, I would find it hard to believe you could show $20 million of losses.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting. But definitely tax-free here.
Yeah.
Unless professional. Even if you win tax for life or cash for life or whatever.
Yep.
Tax-free.
All lottery winnings.
Interesting. Yeah, and that's a benefit that we have here opposed to the States.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, it'd be really not good if you were an American citizen living in Canada, and even if you won a Canadian lottery,
right,
that would be taxable.
Right.
So, like, if Robin was American and you're Canadian, she should never buy a lottery ticket. Only you should ever claim them.
Right.
Because they would tax it.
Right. Any other fun little facts? I think we've done pretty good here.
I know, not off the top of my head. So,
I like the misconceptions; those were good.
There's a lot of stuff in the tax system, and most people don't understand.
So
most of it. But
income, is it the income tax book or what tax book that is
Income
like
Tax Act?
And it's like
it's like thick, 2,600 pages or something.
And it's insanity.
Yeah, it's not my favorite read because you go to this section that says it's okay, but if not for this section, then you flip on, choose your own adventure to that page and then go, oh, okay, well, does it fit under this? And
right,
it's all written in legalese, so it's like if this person or this person or this person or that person, and then you have to like whittle down to what the paragraph's actually trying to say.
Right. I've never even looked at it before. I went to school and studied some law stuff, but I've never looked at the Income Tax Act before.
Yeah, we get familiar with it at school. So in your world, real estate, the interesting parts for you, I guess, would be when people sell a house. So principal residence is tax-free. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows
right
that.
now.
Right now. Who knows? Anything could change.
Yeah.
That one I can't see changing anytime soon.
Hopefully.
But we need money. We established that over the last 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Principal residence is tax-free. But that's your house in 1 acre. So being in Wainfleet, you probably have a lot of people that own their house in multiple acres.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
Well, that generally means the excess acreage is taxable.
Really?
So then you need to come up with a value of your house in 1 acre versus the rest of it. There are times where if the lot would be completely not severable, so you got your 10-acre property and your house, you can make an argument if it can't be severed, and the town will provide to you a letter saying it won't be severed, can't be severed, that could all be tax-free. But generally, you're looking at figuring out the value of your house, that 1 acre, and then all the excess acreage is taxable.
Wow, this is new to me.
The other thing to worry about is if you ever own a cottage or a Florida property. Only one property you own in any given year can be tax-free. So when you sell the first one of them, you need to figure out which one has a bigger gain in it. So if you bought your cottage for $100,000 and it's in Muskoka and it's now worth $2 million, and you bought your house in Wainfleet for $100,000 and it's currently worth $125,000, you might want to pay tax on that $25,000 gain
instead of
on the Muskoka gain. But you need to figure out, you can't just file your return, say it's exempt, and then when you sell that cottage later, find out that you lost all those years of exemption. So it's basically the years you own both of them. You get to figure out which one you want, and then the gain's prorated, and it's somewhat complicated. But
this is good when somebody comes to you instead of filing their own.
Right. This is the time when then they need real advice.
Yeah.
So if they I sold my house, I didn't declare it and the rest of it and moved on, and then you later sold the cottage and now I need help. Well, now you're in trouble.
I didn't realize it was only on the first acre. That's the first time I've heard that.
Yep. And so up until 3 years ago, when you sold your house, you really didn't have to fill any forms out.
Right.
So now when you sell a house, you have to fill out a form, a 2091, and disclose the sale of the house, regardless of whether it's taxable or not. Different forms, whether it's
this is
taxable
new.
or not.
Yeah.
If you don't file that form, it's an $8,000 penalty.
Really?
Now the penalty goes based on number of months. Is late filed, let's assume you never file it. They catch you later. Boom, $8,000. The sale is completely non-taxable, but $8,000 penalty.
Yeah,
and they will assess those. So we're finding a lot of people, like even they'll drop their stuff off to us, and they don't even tell us they sold their house. It's just you know them or whatever, right? Or you see an address change on their info and what happened,
right?
And you pick it up there. So a lot of people at home doing it online or whatever, I got to assume aren't really thinking about that. So something they should think about. So this is
definitely people should be reporting sale of the house.
Yeah, especially if it's tax-free. It's not going to cost you any money, but you're not going to expose yourself to that penalty. If you own a Florida property, that can count as your principal residence. So if the Florida property you bought in 2007 when the market, dollars at par, Florida market was in the tank, it might be worth using it on that one rather than in your house locally. So different things to think about there. That's kind of stuff that happens in your world. If you have a big farm and you start severing off lots to sell them, you run into HST issues, income tax issues on that.
Right.
So HST starts to apply after you sever your lot into 2 more parcels.
Right.
And so HST is a whole another world of complication, and that's just basically you get start getting into stuff like that, and you just need to figure out what you're doing.
See, that's interesting though. I like peeling back to when you said most people can file their own taxes. But if most people are filing their taxes and have sold their house and didn't report it, that's not good. So anybody filing their own taxes, if you sold your house, and whether you just report that, $8,000 they can. Wow, that's crazy. So they're doing this. They're collecting some data, right?
Well, they got 2 different components to use. One is that your address changed possibly on your tax return, so that can trigger them to say what happened. I mean, it's a computer system, right? So it's all data mining. Yeah. But they can tie it into the land transfer office. Every land transfer is registered. So it went from Joe to whoever. Okay, well, is that reported on your return? Right. So you run into the house flippers over the years, which I've, you've probably seen a few. Guys are building houses, moving in every 6 months kind of idea. Yeah. And not reporting it. Well, the government's getting a little bit smarter. And that's why they put this in there to go after them. And they can look at the land transfer records and say, we'll get an issue with Bob over here who built himself 4 houses in 3 years. Yeah. And then at a minimum, if they can't win the argument that they were not your principal residence, they can go back and say, but did you file this form? And they can nail you with some tax there.
Right, and they can get that. Because I've definitely heard of this before, of people building, moving in, selling, and doing that multiple times. And at some point that becomes
a business.
Becomes a business instead of your personal residence.
Yeah.
Is there a fast and hard rule to this?
No.
There isn't. It's kind of loose.
Yep. Because
I've explained that to people. People have asked me before. And they say, okay, I've built this house, but I can't afford it. Now I'm going to sell it. And they're like, but I've heard you've had to live here a year. And I'm like, I believe circumstance will outweigh this. Your circumstance is you're selling it not just to make a profit and like you did 10 of these. You're doing it because you can't afford it now, right? Where somebody else looking for the loopholes or whatever, if you're doing it 10 times over, how many times can you say you got transferred jobs or...
Right.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely what it comes down to. If the true circumstance are you built it and it's a bigger house than you can afford, I think you could show that pretty easily.
Right.
And then we downsize to this house and we haven't done it again in 5 years kind of idea.
Right.
Especially if they bought the second house rather than built the second house. That'd be easier to show. But Yeah, if it's every 6 months steady for 5 years, it's going to be tough to say, well, I had a second kid, and I had a third kid, and I had a fourth kid, but we didn't like that color house because it was yellow, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone's going to come back and say, I don't think so.
Yeah, not so much.
They haven't been great at tracking it, but they're really trying to clamp down on it because they need money.
Yeah, exactly. So now this is, I don't know if it should be a scary thing or not, but it's something that people should be aware of. When our government is in such exponentially worse shape every second, then I look at that clock, where we can scroll back to that.
I want to look to see new window.
It's just going up so fast. What else are you going to pull up here? No, you're going to go Canada? Oh, wow, this should be interesting. Oh, there's Ontario.
It's the same website. No.
You're sure?
There's our Canadian. So we're $18,602 is our Canadian debt. On top of the $24,000 on top of the $24,000 we owe provincially.
See, I've never even looked at this stuff per hour. 2,260,000. Growth of debt per day, 54 million. That seems right. My share, 18,000. Yeah, so this is what I was getting to there. When our Ontario and national debt is increasing this crazy, the CRA has to start looking at where are we missing dollars with people, and where they start, I'm going to assume, and maybe you can, where they start saying, okay, we can spend money hiring more auditors for the CRA to find where people are not giving us what we deserve, right? So some people, this is where having somebody like you making sure things are done right instead of somebody just doing it on their own and doing it wrong, whether they're trying to scam or just doing it wrong. Because this is just me looking in from outside. Because CRA, they hire more people. Let's find where we're missing money.
Absolutely.
So are they doing that?
I think they're trying to.
Right.
Absolutely. They're going after a lot of different projects. So every year, and they did one to realtors a couple years ago, probably before we were working together. They sent a letter to every realtor saying, these are the things that are allowed, these are the things that aren't allowed. Let us know if you messed up your return. And then you could just ignore it. Or you could come forward and say, yeah, I messed it up. And then, risk whether they follow up or not. And they do like a project like that every kind of year. This year they're doing a vehicle review expense for companies. So you declared any vehicles and they're asking for a ton of details. We got like 15 of them in the last week.
Really?
A real pain. In the past they've reviewed professional fees. So they're doing all these small projects to keep people in, but they're doing more and more of them. Like we haven't seen this. I've been working there for over 20 years. So for like the first 16 years, we didn't see a lot of this activity, and we're seeing a lot more now. Where they're saying we're generating a lot of money this way.
Yeah.
Sending these things out, kind of scare letters, but kind of legit at the same time. CRA is wasting a lot of time on some nonsense.
Yeah.
Rather than going after some bigger fish, but that's a different.
That's a whole nother podcast.
That's a different, I can spend 2 hours ranting about CRA issues to you. But
yeah,
we'll do that on the golf course.
I like it. That sounds good. Maybe a good way for us to end. So what do you do in your free time? What do you like to do? Like you work lots too.
Yeah, absolutely. I do golf a lot.
You do like to golf?
I do golf a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably the number one. Snowboard. I started getting into skydiving and then I just didn't have enough time, but I want to get back into it.
Skydiving?
Yeah.
Have you done Burnaby?
No, the Welland one.
Is that just over here?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like
you don't hear the planes like all day? They
come
come right over your house, I'm sure.
Every once in a while when I'm outside I can see them parachuting down, but I can't say.
Oh, every time I hear that plane take off, it just makes me want to jump out of it.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I've wanted to do it when I was younger. I wanted to do it, but when I actually think about doing it, then I'm like, do I want to do it? It's a good thrill, though.
I did it when I was 18 in Florida, and then I did it again when I was like 24 in Las Vegas.
Wow.
And then my grandma turned 90, so I took her skydiving for her birthday.
No, you didn't.
I did. Because she was convinced that there was a good chance she would die. She was up for that. She didn't die. She lived. She was fine.
She was 90 and she jumped out of a plane.
Yep. So we did that, and then I started doing some jumps on my own rather than those were all tandem.
Right.
And I did the first 2 jumps at Skydive Niagara, and they were great. And then every time I tried to follow up with them to do another one, it's like, we don't have enough instructors, we're too busy, it's too windy, it's too cloudy. And they just kept telling me, you come first thing on Saturday or Sunday morning, and we'll get you in. But that's when I golf. So I'm like, no, I'll come at noon. I'll golf in the morning, I'll come skydive in the afternoon, it'll be the best day ever. And that didn't work out. So kind of my goal next year is to get my skydiving license.
So you've done a non-tandem jump before?
I have done 2 on my own.
Is that like a huge difference?
Yeah, I mean, you're in control of it, right? Like,
yeah.
Tandem, you're just along for the ride. You're a passenger. You jump out, it's no big deal. The guy runs the ship behind you. So the first jump on your own, you jump from like 3,000 feet, maybe 3,500.
Right.
And when you jump out of the plane, they pull a chute for you. And then you just have to fly the chute down. Kind of no big deal.
So yeah, you're driving it. Okay.
But you got a one-way radio. There's a guy on the ground who's watching. He's like, turn left, turn right, and you land it. No big deal. And then you go from there, you go up to 12,000 feet.
Whoa.
And you jump out of the plane. 2 instructors holding on to you when you jump, but you're basically in charge. You look at your altimeter, see, you indicate to them, what height you're at, and then when you're at, I can't remember, 6,000 feet or 5,000 feet, you let them know, they let go, and they take off on their own. You pull your chute out, and then you fly it down. Again, still an instructor guiding you, flying it down, but you have that whole minute of free fall where you're basically in charge.
That's crazy.
And that's what it's all about right there. I saw some crazy stuff when we were there, a student jumping out, and the instructor was good with me. He's like, yeah, I've seen people cut their chute. So you have a reserve chute, you have your main chute, and then you have a cord which would cut your main chute if it comes out not properly, and then you have a reserve chute you can pull. And there's a computer that will pull the reserve chute if you haven't pulled yours by 2,000 feet or whatever.
Right.
If you pad blackout or something like that, right? It's to save you. So we were sitting at the airport watching people come down, and we saw something falling kind of over Weber Road, and something else falling, and there should have only been one thing in the air. And then we saw the chute pull, and the reserve chutes, I guess, are always white. So when you see a white chute, you know it's a reserve. So then we knew the other thing falling. The guy cut his own chute, and then he freaked out and he didn't pull the reserve, so the computer shot it out.
Right.
And then when he came down, he guided it back to the airport okay, but when he came down, the last thing you do is you pull your handles as hard as you can. It's like putting the brakes on. He didn't do that. So he hits the ground, bounces off it.
Holy.
He walks away from it. He's fine. And then the police show up. And we heard the skydiver. There was a tragedy. We've issued the either an airplane or a helicopter from Toronto, search and rescue, to come out. And they're like, no, the guy's here. He's fine. They're like, no, we had a call that a parachuter hit Weber Road. And so they didn't believe that this guy was okay. And then he was sitting beside me, and he wanted to go back up, and they had to tell him, no, you.
He wanted to go again?
Yeah, he wanted to go do a second jump, and they're like, you shown that you can't make
do
decisions
on your own. Yeah.
At that rate. Go home, tell your friends you lived through a jump, and call it a day. But just makes me want to do it even more.
That's so crazy. See, I used to want to do it. Now I don't know. I don't know what it would actually be like standing at that door.
When you do a tandem, it's not really, you don't have time to think. You're strapped to the front of a guy. He's like, all right, you crawl your way. They're tight little airplanes.
Right.
So you crawl your way to the door, and then when it's time to go, it's not like he's like, hey, Joe, do you still want to go? No, he pushes you out.
It's like,
and the next thing you do, you're just flying like a bird straight down. It's awesome.
Yeah, eh?
It's totally worth it.
Is it roughly the same price in the different places you've done it?
Basically, other than the time gap of inflation.
Right.
More or less. I think the first one was $180 in 1998.
Right.
US.
Uh-huh.
Now I think it's around $320 to do a tandem.
Gotcha.
But anyone who hasn't done it, it's worth it.
Wow, that's wild. See, this really surprised me. Accountant, you wouldn't think, accountants tend to be more safe and not. No? Or is that just...
I guess in general, not a lot of people maybe like skydiving, but I think it's a new world of accounts out there.
Yeah?
Yeah, most accountants I know now are pretty good people. Although maybe we're just all nerds and I'm not recognizing that I'm part of the nerd group. I don't know.
Right.
But no, there's still your nerdy accountants.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Other than that, snowboarding. Again,
cool.
with more speed issues, right?
Yeah.
We have to go as fast as we can there.
So do you go more over to like Kissing Bridge and stuff, or do you go?
Elkaville, Kissing Bridge, depending. Kissing Bridge has this wicked lift ticket, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. Friday nights.
Yeah.
Once a month, so like you can kind of put your kids to bed. They don't even know you're gone.
And then
get home at 3 a.m. Head to work for 8 a.m. It's good.
I like it.
But what do you do, Joe? So you eat burgers and you sell real estate.
I like it. Flip it around.
Absolutely. Nobody ever interviews you.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know. I haven't watched your podcast yet.
only one time did it get flipped. I work lots of work and a lot of burgers.
That's bullshit.
You don't believe it?
No, I believe it. But you said you work lots. What else do you do?
Well,
so take the work out of it. You have to do something.
Well, I'll tell you, today's Sunday. So from here, I'm going over to my mom's place. And almost every Sunday we get together for a family dinner. That's like our thing. And actually today we have my brother's friends coming over there. Well, his friend Gavin, he's from Barbados, so he's coming over and making some Bajan food. So I'm looking forward to that. Some macaroni pie and I think maybe some people, if anybody's made it this far, I think he's making some dolphin or dolphin-like fish. So that's interesting. So Sundays, family stuff. What I try and do on Sundays is I try to work from home and not take outside appointments. So even you want to call this work or not, I don't know, whatever. And then family stuff. Last night we went to Shirkson. My wife's parents have a trailer there. So I went golfing for the second time yesterday before that.
At Whiskey Run?
Whiskey Run. They had a top fan event, so I went there. Brought my brother-in-law and we played 9 holes. I like golfing, but I don't make it out too much. I don't know what else. Played baseball in Wainfleet, co-ed baseball every Friday night. That's a fun beer league. So that's always look forward to that one. You play softball or anything? Slow pitch or anything?
Back in the day, team folded. That was the end of it.
Yeah.
Mid-20s, played baseball, played ball hockey.
Gotcha.
All that's gone to wayside. Spend more time playing golf. Any free time I want to be playing.
So where do you golf?
Cardinal Lakes.
Yeah.
Lookout.
Nice.
Play both of those, and then all around wherever,
Yeah.
But those are the two. Saturday, Sunday mornings are Cardinal Lakes, and then during the afternoons go to Lookout.
So you're good at golf.
Depends how you. I have a lower handicap than most people, but
right.
Whatever.
Do you take it serious then?
No.
So you're still having fun.
We play as quickly as possible. That's the goal. We tee off first in the morning on Saturday and Sunday morning.
What's first?
7 a.m. now.
Right.
We used to get out at 6:30, but we're back to 7. And the goal is to get basically done as quick as we can, like 2.5, 3 hours. That's it.
Wow. 18 holes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's how long it takes me to play 9.
Yeah, and that's not the way golf should be at all. So
you take a cart?
No. Oh no.
No cart and you're golfing that quick?
Yeah.
Wow.
You just walk. You walk and you get ready. So the other guys are hitting, you're still walking up to your ball, you figure out your yardage and you get up and hit. They're done hitting and then when you get to the green there's no goofing around, oh, whose turn is it? Blah blah blah. If I walk up there, it's my turn. Whoever's there, you just putt. You don't need to look at the line from both sides. What are the odds you're going to make it anyway, right? You get up, make a guess, hit your putt. And then you get done quick. But you walk quick and you get ready quick. Still plenty of time to talk.
Yeah.
Still 3 hours together.
Yeah.
But you see a lot of times these guys are like, oh, we get up on the tee and now it's story time. Yeah. Let me tell you about...
Yeah.
So that's what we can't
So you power through it.
Yeah.
Who do you normally golf with?
2 other accountants.
Yeah. Nice.
For the most part. My dad on Sundays.
Nice. So when you guys golf, do you guys talk accounting or not?
Oh, absolutely. What else? We got nothing else. Like you said, we work.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of accounting talk. We talk about concerts and a couple TV shows. Nothing good.
Yeah.
That's about it. Yeah. Absolutely.
I like it. Anything left for us to talk about? We covered some good stuff here.
We're pretty good.
This was good. Was this what you expected? You're like, I didn't prep you, but
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We're good. Just trying to think any tax things that people really need to know that we left out, but I think we got most of it.
I don't know. That was pretty good about the first time buyer, the $1,000 back on income tax. That was pretty good, or 5,000 credit, or however it was.
$1,000 cash, basically.
Yeah, and then RSP stuff.
I mean, okay. So the other one, if anybody made it this far, that we get a lot of questions on is medical. If you're like, oh, let me give me your medical receipts and blah blah blah. Medical only counts when you hit a certain threshold, 3% of your net income, up to like $1,800. So for a lot of people, you got to have $1,800 in medical before the next dollar counts for anything. So a lot of times medical is not worthwhile, and people worry about keeping the receipts all year. Only if you got braces, then it's always going to matter. But if you just got a couple dental things and here or there, if you have any benefits at all, generally covers it off, or you don't need to worry about it.
Right.
And people think there's big savings on medical, and it's not really the case.
So braces, what's that? If somebody gets braces and that costs, I don't even know how much braces cost now, $2-3 grand, $4 grand,
something like that.
Then,
so if you get over that threshold, your 3% of your net income threshold, then you basically save 20% on anything after that.
Gotcha.
So what if somebody's going to worry about all their receipts to get to $2 grand, and they need $1,800 to start with? So you're talking about 20% of $200. It's worth $40.
Right.
So how much do you care to keep track of all that?
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
That's it. That's all I got.
I like it. How long did we run for? This was a good one.
I don't know. Like an hour 30? Hour 40?
Is it? No, I think it's more. Where is it here? How about 240?
No. Oh, yeah. You're right.
That was a good one.
You're right. That was long.
Good stuff. That was a good one. That was good.